we'll eat right around 12 o'clock. And then after lunch, Jade is going to take over and talk with you a little bit about, there's an instrument we're working on called the Green Tool, where we look at assessing level of integration of school farms. She'll talk with you about that. And then at the end of the day, I would like to spend some time talking with you guys about basically what's missing with training teachers in elementary ag ed, and what do we need to do. Just to give an overview of today, I just can't tell y'all how appreciative I am that you're here. There's nobody to study. There's no model to look at. There's nothing. It's not like I can look at Mississippi or Colorado and say, oh, what'd they do? And we'll copy that, modify it. We're ahead of everybody on this. Georgia is now. Missouri is got a program going, but it's more science-based. It's not quite what we're doing. Texas just passed into the law. Florida's trying to get it through legislation. Mississippi's trying. But you will be shocked at the impact that your input has. I mean, because this will go into research articles, it'll be published, it'll be cited, and that people will care about what you say today. For me personally, I care tremendously, because in the fall, I teach a class. I'm training our first crop of elementary ag ed teachers to come out of UGA, and they'll be the first ones in the country, actually, anywhere. And yeah, I don't know what to teach them. I mean, it's like, I know a lot about ag ed high school level, and middle school level, what Blaine came through and Junior came through, but it's a different creature. Those elementary school kids are a different creature, and we're not sure what it should look like. And most everything that you guys say today will be taught in a class next semester, as this is what the experts say. This is what y'all should. I mean, that's what we call you. You're a panel of experts. That's who you are today. So I just want you to know that it's greatly appreciated and very important to us. I think that's all I've got on logistics. Any questions or concerns, comments before we get started? Everybody good? Cool. Lynn, if it's okay, I can turn it over to you.
Yes, and I don't know if it's better to just explain the 3 rounds of modified Delphi approach maybe after we finish the survey. So as we are, having some coffee and donuts, probably let's just, relax and chill. And while answering our first survey, if you haven't done it yet, we have the QR code in here. And then maybe I can also, there you go. It's on the presentations too. And then if you can just take in mind the 3-component model. Yes. Classroom, laboratory instructions, leadership development, and experiential learning. So just keep this in mind as you are answering those questions in the survey.
Yeah, and did everybody get the Wi-Fi internet access? Everybody's good? Okay, I'll leave it out in case you get disconnected.
And I'm going to go down and ask the lady at the front. The Wi-Fi just tanked out on me, and I had to kick back in. I'm going to ask her what we can do to stay connected, because this little guy, I don't know if you're familiar with the meeting owl. This is Albert. This is a speaker, microphone, camera system. So anytime we're talking today, even very, very softly, the camera and the mic will pick up on it. I just don't want to get kicked out, because then I'll have to log back in and then it'll start recording again. So I'm going to go figure out how do we stay in there, today. But just to let you know, if you're comfortable with it, is it okay to leave this on today as we go through our time together and just chat? And okay. It'll help Lynn later then as we go back through and listen and rewatch and make sure we get all this down. So these are pretty neat little things. And it does kind of look like an owl if you're looking at it from where Justin's sitting with a little beak in the eyes,
We've already taken the survey. We're good.
Okay.
Yes, if you were ready for the survey.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Blaine, keep up with Brandon Cross.
Yeah, actually,
Wherever he became a teacher, but I lost track of him.
And he's I'm trying to think if he's still in Georgia. James actually talks to him more than I do. He like, he has property, like where he was like building his own house and stuff, like
Really?
off the grid style, you know, a very branded thing to do.
Yeah, it sounds right.
But yeah, he was teaching, and he was teaching ag.
He was down, it was a little bit south of Atlanta. and
Yeah, I
west.
remember it being like over here. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
But I want to say he's moved out of Georgia now. But he was still teaching the last time I talked to him. I don't know if he still is.
him building an off the grid house is the least surprising thing. I've
Right, yeah,
heard.
that's what, when I found out he's doing, I was, oh yeah, that's what Brandon's doing. No surprise there.
Good for him.
Uh, I'm trying to think of who else I've heard from recently. I know there was TJ Hines or Thomas Hines was his name.
Yeah.
He was only at UJ Tiffin for a year and he like left.
Yeah.
Nobody knew where he went, but he just went to BSU. So, and that was the last time I saw him was when I was working there. I managed a GameStop there.
I gotta figure it out.
That's right, I remember that.
Wife was dropping me off time or two there. I just didn't want it doing that. So, yeah, wait, they're gonna bring the IT guy down here, see if we can figure it out.
Yeah, it just kicked me out too.
Did it?
Yeah, I just relogged in. So, I mean, for me, that's not an issue, but for, yeah, you recording
Well,
that.
when it kicks us out, then it has to start the recording
Yeah.
over, you know, it's like, I would love to have just one recording for the whole thing, you know, to download. But
I don't know why, but mine is holding stable.
is it okay?
Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't like moving my mouse for long
Yeah,
enough and
you're
that's
refreshing
right.
pages every like 5
That's
seconds.
right, that's right. Gets rid of you.
Is your stream, is it logging? I mean, going, your
Time out.
stream, your computer going to sleep or something?
No, I got it set so it doesn't go to sleep.
Yeah, I got it.
No, I don't know.
You'll see, y'all probably saw this, the social media stuff that during COVID, some companies were monitoring where people were at their computers. So they would set up like an oscillating fan with 2 ink pens and they would put their mouse in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
And it would sit, the oscillating fan would sit there and wiggle the mouse back and forth. And so the bosses were happy. They're like, you're really being productive. That's what we're looking for.
What? Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's what I want to measure my success by.
Mhm.
How long do I sit there and wiggle the mouse back and forth?
Mhm.
My master's research was kind of elementary, I guess. Like I did it on like what young kids learn from television about pollinators,
Oh, yeah.
and then compared the different sources of like internet streaming versus cable versus like publicly available like GPB and all.
What'd you
Oh,
find?
neat.
No, non-surprisingly, GPB is much more accurate as far as like what they display and stuff. Because like the basis of my research, you know, very real word there, research, you know, but research is like anamorphizing or like making things animals humanoid, and how it makes like young children remember more about like what they're told, but like remember inaccurate things scientifically. So it's like why a lot of kids think that the queen bees wear crowns because they've always seen them anamorphized to have a crown as like a little
Yeah.
human being or whatever. So
Interesting.
it's like a weird balance of, you know, how much do you make them like relatable to the child
Yeah, yeah,
versus
that's
scientifically accurate was like the premise that I was focusing on.
Guess it depends on what level of knowledge you're trying to get to. If it's just awareness, I guess it's okay. But if you,
Because like, you know, the bee movie, like famously like turned around like a whole generation's like attitudes toward bees. Like the kids that were raised on that, I love bees, but then they also
Yeah.
you know, associate bees with like talking and dancing and having different cool jobs. And stuff.
I like the,
Hey there, good morning.
I liked, I think it was Finding Nemo. There was the clownfish was on the endangered species, and one of the goals of the Finding Nemo was to raise awareness of the clownfish.
Yeah.
Instead, it raised the popularity, and so people started hunting them and capturing them more. So it actually decimated an already endangered species. It went critical after the movie. It's like humans we can't stand ourselves, you know. We see something, it's like, I need that. Hey, well, welcome. I don't apologize. There's no problem.
So sorry.
It's okay.
I just got in town from Birmingham late last night, and when I set my alarm, I didn't know you have to turn your phone off for it to reset the time because Alabama is an hour
Central
behind.
time.
I thought my phone would just kind of automatically do it, so I apologize.
No,
That's
it's all
okay.
right. Glad you're here. What's your name?
My name is Kenya Greer.
It's really good to be with you. I'm Nick. That's Lynn,
Okay.
Jason, Jade.
And do you know everyone here? I don't,
I don't know everybody. but
okay, real quick, Robbie, let's just do names.
Robbie, I do know you. Wasn't that long ago.
Amanda, hi Amanda.
And I'm blank.
Okay.
Very good. All righty. Well, Kenya, we were just, there was a survey that Lynn had sent out about a week ago. I don't know if you had a chance to fill that out.
I did do both.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. And the agenda is Lynn's gonna lead us this morning. And we're gonna talk about teaching methods in elementary ed. And then we'll have a little lunch, and then Jade over here is gonna talk with us about, it's about school gardens and how we evaluate school gardens. And then I have a few things at the end of the day.
Hey. I don't know. I sent it. I didn't, let me see. Because I sent them the Zoom, and we're the only ones in the Zoom room right now.
Since we're recording this and it's not over Zoom, and
Yeah,
so there were,
mm-mm, not yet.
I'm not picking, this is with any event, but we had a lot of people cancel in the last 1 or 2 days, just like, well, I can't. And we thought, well, maybe some people could join via Zoom and at least listen in or maybe contribute something. It's much better in person, but yeah. So anyway, we made some last minute adjustments that we're trying to make sure they work out this morning. All righty. With that, Lynn, I guess we'll turn it over.
Yeah.
to you.
Uh-huh.
All right.
And then the round two for question one.
Mhm.
So are we gonna add more on those, because that's the one that we're going to do before we have a
That's right.
discussion.
That's right. So
Uh-huh.
that is everybody, we want to make sure everybody's done the questionnaire now. Okay, take your time, no problem. It's what's so nice about the technology. We're going to go right into Qualtrics, download those responses, and then put those into a second round there. Isn't it neat what they do? It's almost dangerous, what you can do.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I think I'm gonna slide around so I can.
Come on over,
if
Doc.
I
Sure,
can-
sure,
if I can help,
absolutely.
I will.
Absolutely. I'm going to minimize this. We're going to be working kind of behind the scenes as the data is coming in to then get it back to you. So let's see. Let me go back here.
Yeah, and while Lynn's getting set up, some of you may be familiar with Delphi as a research method, but if you're not, it's just an effort to reach consensus, to try to get everybody to agree on something. And so what we'll do is we'll start with a question and we'll send that around, and it's very open. I mean, you can say whatever you think about that, whatever information you think is relevant. And that's what Nick was saying. We'll be looking at that as it comes in, and we'll score it, or you guys will actually end up scoring it. We'll narrow it down, and we'll do a couple of rounds of that until we basically come to an agreement on what the most important.
That's how you guys created the standards, right? Did I do that same thing to create the ag ed standards?
It's exactly what we
Yeah, I was
did.
gonna say, I thought reading that paper, that's what y'all did.
We'll look down.
Yeah, so 3 years ago now, we used this method. We were in Athens, actually, out there at the Four Towers building, and we had about 25 people, so it took a full day for that one. But that's where the standards came from. And they probably need to be revisited, to tell you the truth. Well, everybody,
I mean, it's a good start.
yeah, everybody in that room was like, we don't know,
We
but
started with high school, middle school standards. We started with elementary science standards. We started with community partner. I mean, we were just trying to start figuring out what to do at all levels and where to plug. And hey, but I mean, to get started, to go with, I mean, it's a good piece to start with, but definitely it's time to start looking. And like Krista said, when we met last year, we were talking, let's get it passed, and then let's start looking at revisiting the standards.
yeah.
So we got it passed. No, that'll be coming. For sure.
All right, Glenn.
Okay, hi everyone again. My name is Sanhelm, and we are just going to have chill and have an informal data collections day today. And again, the title of my research is Effective Teaching Practices for EAE. Sometimes I will just going to call it EAEs, because sometimes elementary agriculture educators. And I believe the House bill just got passed, House Bill 1303, and it will going to start, yay, this coming fall. 2022. So all elementary schools now are required to have an elementary agriculture education. So we are really excited about that. But one thing that's a problem right now is that we need to train those elementary agriculture teachers, or else we need to let them know what are the strategies, what are the methodologies. Actually, this research are based from the research that I did last semester. Justin is one of the participants there, because one of the barriers, the research that I did last semester is what are the barriers of elementary agriculture educations. And one of the barriers there is classroom management and what are the different strategies and methodologies. So this, I had this idea that, okay, so maybe we have to put together all these experts again and ask them, what are the best way to teach elementary agriculture education? Because this is a real new program, and they don't, most of us don't know. I mean, even the professor don't know. And you actually are the one that are really an expert on this, because you know exactly how to do teach those style, those learning components. And they're asking us, I know that you're probably familiar with the 3-component model, but in the elementary agriculture educations, in the curriculum, we need to integrate this 3-component in the classroom. But how are we supposed to do that? Like, for example, I'm thinking to myself, leadership development, FFA. So how in the world kindergarten will be, we're going to, you as a teacher, if you're teaching kindergarten or grade 1 student, how are you doing that? So at least we can help those new teachers. And then experiential learning, the SAE. How I'm just, thinking to myself, oh my goodness, how are they going to do that? The SAE in elementary. So and that's mainly the purpose of our research this morning. And just to give you an idea for our we will going to have rounds for the modified Delphi approach. The first round we already did it. That's a survey wherein we ask you 4 questions. First one is what are the different effective, the definition of effective teaching and so on and so forth. And then after that, we're going to do the second round wherein we are going to put together all the statements that you answered on those questions. And then we are going to rate each statement using a 7-point Likert scale on how strongly we agree with that statement. Like, for example, in our first questions, what is the definition of effective teaching? And then you're just going to say there, I strongly agree that, teaching should be fun and stuff like that. And then after that, statement achieving a mean rating of 5 or higher will now going to be moved to the third round. But before we start with the third round is our final round, we are going to post the statements that have a rating of 5 and above. And we are kind of, look at those statements, if we agree at those statements, and then we talk about it in a group and have a consensus on what really is our definitions of effective teaching, what are the strategies, what are the methodologies for effective elementary agriculture educations. And that's it. And then we're just going to discuss the 10 highest ranking and respond if you agree or disagree, and if we have a consensus on, well, those statements. Any questions? Okay, so if,
Okay. So here's what we're doing, Len. We are taking, so everybody's done the questionnaire. We are gonna take, Len, I'm just thinking out loud with you here. If your internet is staying on, it's working up there,
yes,
can I send you this file with the downloaded data for us to look at and you expand on that screen up there together to pull that text up? Jay and I were just talking about writing out the responses, but that might take a little bit of time. Is that possible if I emailed that
but
to you?
actually, Dr. Furman, if you're going to type it in the Qualtrics, they will already gonna see it. Because on the second round, we are just going to
Okay, all right,
rate, they will have to rate it first before we're gonna have a discussion.
okay, all right, let's do
So-
that. All right,
So if we can, I type most of their answer already, but I think there's a
okay.
few that we need.
So
to-
you've got, probably, we have one, I think, how many did it today? Was it two? Just one today. Okay, so I'm gonna grab, okay, that's
so
okay.
that's the only-
So I'm gonna grab that. Thank you. That's good to know. That's
Uh-huh.
actually good. Okay, hold on. All right, so I'm gonna grab,
Jump,
jeez, I'll tell you what. Oh my goodness.
shrink your.
Okay, hang on, I'm gonna
this is-
remember it. Okay, got it. Let's do this. Let's go in here. Let's go into here. Whoops, wait a minute. Len, you have,
I think I have 10 or 13 answers in there.
okay, got it. This is the part, gang, just to tell you that it's interesting to do it live like this, but with the data, it just takes us a second just to kind of put it all together. All right, so Len, you have built,
Yes, this one, and then if there's another statement there, we can just add.
let me see, yeah, let me see your computer so we can all vote. Okay, I'm sorry. Because yours is showing it, mine is not. Let's put one more in here. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, there you go.
all right, so. Okay. Maybe that, yeah, it keeps kicking us out. What you get, yeah. Thanks, buddy.
So that's probably what I'm gonna do, just press anything, so they will not kick me.
Yeah. Okay. 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 All right, Len.
Question one only.
First one,
So
that's
I
right.
haven't started question two, round two.
No problem. That's right. So I will start downloading the data and putting it into question two while they're working on this. So let's publish this because we got the one more.
You know where it goes.
Okay. And that, okay. So Len, can you,
Yep, they can access it already. So we just published the second round for question number one. And again, the question number one, hold on. Okay, is how do you define effective teaching in the elementary agriculture classroom lab? So what you're going to see in the Qualtrics right now are some of your definitions. So if you can, and we just publish it, and if you can scan our Qualtrics, so you'll be able to see those survey, and you are just going to respond on how strongly you agree with those statements or if you disagree with those statements.
Set it to connect automatically. 'Cause maybe if it's connected automatically, it won't kick you off.
You start agreeing. That's right. I did mine that
oh,
way.
okay.
and it-
I was
Okay.
gonna say that might be I don't know if that would be a solution.
Oh, thanks, Jay. That's okay. Thanks.
On that survey, all the statement that we're gonna rank 5 and up, those are the things that we are going to write down on the paper, but I don't know how to rank them. Or, you said, remember all they're ranking it now, 1 to 7. So all the statements that have a ranking of 5 and above, we're going to pull it and I will going to write it on the
Mhm.
paper.
Yeah.
So as soon as they're done, I'm gonna run the averages on that and
Okay.
get the, and then
I'll
we
write
can
them
start
down.
writing. Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
write
that's right. Right now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull question 2 in for you and get that, I'm gonna get that set up right now. Sure. And Lynn, this one is, when you say question 2, is that what you mean by that? Or,
Yes, but that is round 2. You should see round 2, question 2. So
okay,
type question.
so like over here.
Yes, it's supposed to be round 2, question 2.
Here we go. So round 2,
Question
question
2,
2.
and
Okay.
that is
And this is our 7-point scale. Okay. So I'm gonna start working on this while they're doing that. Okay. We're done, we get the averages. If you want, okay, I can do that. If you want to do that, man, I don't know if we can stay online.
I just got booted, but I hit
Did you?
reconnect.
Okay. Yeah. After each one of these. Okay. I'm gonna do this one.
if everyone's done, just let us know so we can
This in.
start averaging the mean.
I tell you what, when they're done with
I
that.
think they're done. So we
Okay,
can
now,
do the
maybe
rating.
Dr. Pete can do the
So which
means on that.
Which one did they just finish? That one,
Round 2, question 1.
round 2, question 1. And I'll,
Okay.
okay, yeah, I'll do that right now.
Okay, thanks, man.
Okay, for the next one, before we move on to the 3rd round, and again, so we are just averaging the answer. So those that, for all the statements that have a rating of 5 and above, we are going to move them to round 3. Okay, but before we move on to the round 3, we are going to write down those statements in our paper, in our posted paper, what we call that, forgot about that. And then we are just going to, well, maybe walk around and maybe with a partner, we're going to talk about, maybe if you can write down some notes or, any comments or any questions that you have about that statement. And then maybe after 5-10 minutes, we can sit down again and talk about it in a group on, whether we agree with that statement or whether we need to, well, if one statement are kind of similar to other statement, and we can just kind of, well, put them together. But our goal is to come up with our definition as a group of what is the effective teaching in elementary agriculture education based on those statements that all of you just submitted. Got it? Okay, so they are just, I think Dr. Peak and Dr. Ferner are just.
We're working behind the scenes right
advocating
now.
it.
You can see the smoke just rolling out.
Yep.
Okay,
I will probably go into canvas.
okay, we're building this thing to send back to you here right now. It's so neat to be able to use this technology just on your phone like that to respond. That is great. We're getting this in real time. Okay, so that is the last one, and we got that. Okay, so I got this guy ready to go. and
Usually
publish.
the Delphi approach usually takes, 2 weeks. Going back and forth to the email. So this is kind of new because we are doing it in a, whole day and trying to, having a consensus on what's going to be the answer for the questions. But we really appreciate it.
Okay, great.
You're all okay.
There's your load.
Okay. That's good to know. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all of those and they're all gonna get discussed.
Okay, so all of that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Good. That's good.
Why don't I do that?
Oh, thanks, Doc. That sounds good. And the next round is ready to go. And I'll start building this next one. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, let's go to that one. Okay, so then just to let you know, so this is question 2, round. Yeah, round 2.
Mhm.
This is these are the responses. So that's ready to go for your second question. So
Okay.
it's, I'll just kind of hold
Publish.
off right there. Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
published, it's ready. So
Uh-huh.
in the meantime, can I help you write some stuff down?
Yes.
Over there?
I'm the probably.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Okay, so again, our questions is how do you define effective teaching in elementary agriculture education? And again, we're going to post again those statements that are you already saw in our round 2, and that we are waiting. And then maybe again 5 to 10 minutes we're going to talk about it. Oh.
These responses are all under defining effective teaching. Classroom class. Each of these.
Oh, you know what? Maybe we don't have time to walk around. Maybe we can just talk about it now. What do you suggest, guys? Yeah. I mean, the first one is involving their teachers in their learning. What do you think? I mean, why do you think it's important that, we need to involve What do you mean by
Is there-
involving?
Do you have a list of these questions that you can like email us that we can just, we can
After-
go back?
yeah.
and-
If you
okay, go back in
refresh
there?
the survey, it'll come
Okay.
back
Yeah,
up and the
it
list
will.
is there.
Oh, okay, I just.
So which ones?
The first one is involving students in their learning. So how are you going to involve students in their learning? And it's, my question is, at elementary level, how do you do that?
Active
do you-
participation, make sure they're actually hands-on, involved, doing something, not just sitting in a chair listening to you talk all the
Okay,
time.
so you're saying that having a manipulative activities, and then are you talking about having a reflections also, or a journal to make them involved, or for the objective?
That may
Because
be part of, a journal could be part of it, depends on what the activity is. I mean, journaling, if we're studying plants and how tall this one grows versus this one, and they're drawing the picture, we're going out to the garden, we're looking at it, and we're measuring, and journaling, that may be part of it. I mean, but they're involved in it. It's not me sitting there measuring, all right, the plant's this tall, next week it's this tall, and next week. The kids are actively participating. They're doing part of it. It's hands-on, kids involved, not the teacher always showing. A lot of times in the classroom, teachers, especially at the high school, middle school, you stand there, you talk, you tell, you do a lot of the stuff. With the kids, we try to make the kids get involved. You show them and then you get them to do it.
But my question is it really something that is feasible? Because I know some of
I
you
think
have
some
a lot.
involvement is just in conversation, just like we're all involved right now in the learning and the teaching of this portion of, what we're doing. And it's the same thing in the classroom. If they're actively talking to one another and sharing ideas or talking to you or asking questions and kind of guiding the learning of the subject that you're going through, I think that's considered involvement as well. Without an actual,
Yeah, I think the statement is
something.
just anti-lecture.
Yes.
Okay.
Really, like, I mean,
So
there's-
it's
there
more
is
of
no
a-
lecture.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
the little kids, you
Very-
can't really stand up and lecture to them,
Okay,
because you
so
lose them.
what you're saying is for elementary
10 minutes
agriculture,
max.
it's more of a student centered,
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Student-led.
student led.
And as you're talking, and just to kind of share with y'all how we're doing it, just because this is a new Delphi approach for us today that we're doing all in one day, I'm writing down some things that y'all are saying, and then I'm going to show it to you when we're done our conversation, and you can tell me that I'm crazy and get rid of something or add something, because we may end up putting some of these back into the questionnaire for you to rank in our last round. So I'm just going to write them down as y'all are talking, just to let you know what I'm doing. So y'all keep going, and and first of all, while we're at this little juncture, this is something, I added this word ownership. Nobody said it, but I added that, giving the kids a sense of
Yeah,
ownership.
exactly.
Okay. Okay, and if I did something like that, and you don't agree with the word, you tell me. So I'll keep it for now. Okay,
Okay,
good conversation.
I'm just curious to know, do you involve them from the very start, as in, do you ask them, okay, what should be our objective, or do you have your own objective already written on the board, or you ask your student, okay, what do you want to be our objective for today? How involved
I'd say
it's
I'm
from the
more
start?
railroad them to an objective. Like I know where we're going, but I help them get there on their own, if you will. So I put them on the tracks and then we lead to where they need to be. Like, I'll let them feel like they came to the objective, but really like I knew what we were going to talk about, if you will. Like whether it's,
Give them the big picture.
Picture and
You
then,
got the umbrella way out here, but this is where we're going.
okay,
This is, y'all help us figure out how we're gonna get there.
okay,
Kind of
so
like what
let's
you're
just,
saying, and you give some guidance and say this, depending on which grade level you're working with. He's 3-5, I'm K-5. Kindergarten, you're gonna have to kind of give them a little bit, a lot more guidance.
uh-huh,
5th grade, you kind of give them, they've been doing it since kindergarten. They know what to expect, which not really since kindergarten because we've only been 4 years in. But they can just take it and go with it when we kind of say, this is what we want to get done in the end with this project. So it kind of goes back to that experiential learning.
experiential.
You know,
Uh-huh.
I get.
And
tongue twisted.
ultimately, I mean, we are the teachers and we have standards that we go by. So we have to have an objective for them to seek after. Otherwise, kindergarten through 5th grade, we can go on a tangent of exploring a world of things. So you have to have, like, I have a curriculum guide, and I think we all have instructional guides. And we have standards that we're like, okay, these are the standards that we're going by this week or this day, however your classroom is set up. And it's how far and how deep you get into that standard.
But do you follow
But you
it
allow the kids-
religiously, though, or you, as an, well, you know, to be called as an effective teaching, do you really need to follow these standards, if, well, you know, religiously?
I wouldn't say religiously, but I mean, they are your guide.
There's
I mean,
a-
they're
they're a
open-ended.
guide.
They're
Yeah.
open-ended,
Yeah, I thought it was
for
also
sure.
And they're different,
That's what I'm saying.
and we've discussed
Those
this, they're
standards
different for
very
different
open.
parts of the state, depending on your area, the commodities in your region, and all of that. I focus on different things than the southern part of the state than what Kenya
Oh, I
does in the
see.
northern part, and the standards are worded to allow for that.
Right.
So it
It'll
kind of,
have
it's a
some,
guide, it's not a
flexibility
set in
still.
stone standard.
Yeah, because I know when in high school, we are, well, you know, we can drop off some topics if we don't want to. It's
It's kind of the same way, too.
way also with elementary.
Different regions, we make sure we focus, like, I mean, all of the commodities and the crops and the things there, we try to hit those hard, the animals around our community, the careers that would come out of those
Oh, that is so
jobs and
cool.
stuff in our
Uh-huh.
area. Big
So you focus
industrial
on the
jobs, like
agriculture
in
in your
Atlanta and
area.
big cities. We talk about some of that, we look at some of it, but we focus on more of the farming, the things, the rural South Georgia careers and stuff. Working on tractors and things, because we have a lot of tractor places and a lot of those, we need those technical careers. We need students to know about those careers instead of the mindset of, oh, I gotta go to college and move off to the city and get a
So
big
it's
job.
more personalized. I think is that what
Based
you're
on-
saying,
Oh, yeah.
or, well, you know, unique to that particular.
It's locally
region.
relevant. I mean, it's like
Locally,
And
uh-huh.
that, and going back to taking a step back to before Dublin and the little mini grant we did there, the class we went through with the other, putting that elementary advisory council, I don't know if any of you guys have done any of that, but that was, I did. And that council came together, we met back before the end of the year. And the input from them, all the people in the community to come together with your school and all, I mean, that was a big help. And we're meeting again in August and we've got that in place, but just, we've got like the banker, we've got the law, and we've got all these different people from the community on board, and they want to kind of help and guide. So that's a big piece too, but that career part, and they help kind of give you some guidance into that too. So I mean, community involvement, I know that's kind of a little off of this, but all of those things
No,
come
I think
into, it really is part of it.
Career
Effective
based,
teaching, it's all in, what are you trying to do as far as getting your kids ready for the future careers and the workforce for
And
your
I think,
community?
you know what, Justin, just career-based, that is actually integrated to that leadership skills.
And well,
that-
it is,
that are
every,
in
and that's why I said
the-
all three, that three-part, it really comes to be one. And in my mind, it all just comes back to one thing, and all of your lessons center back into that one piece in my mind.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's it for
And
everybody.
you just actually answered my questions this morning that, well, you know, I was trying to pattern, well, you know, how do
That's
they
what I
do
heard you
that?
ask, and I wanted to jump in and kind of tell you that then, but I said, we
Yeah,
can do it later.
it's just so hard for me to conceptualize, but yes, thank you,
Yeah.
that, well, you know, it's nice that it's actually feasible, that you
Oh,
can
yeah.
actually will start it at that early, because, yeah, I have a 5 years old, so okay, we can do it.
And the kids do great with it. I mean, and they love being that leader and knowing that they get to do stuff. I mean, you think about even back to the basics of in kindergarten, being the line leader and stuff like that. But to give them those jobs in the classroom, when they come to your classroom, like careers, if you're going to
So
do
do you
something.
invite those, well, you know, professionals?
Oh, yes, that's a key component. You
Yeah.
need those people to come to your school.
So
Or either
community
go to their
involvement.
places, depending on, COVID's changed a lot. Now, I think this whole ag program would be, if we had to deal with COVID, I mean, I can just say my program would be better more out than in, because you know, instead of people being able to come in and all, and us being able to go on field trips, we've kind of had to do a lot of virtual stuff.
Mhm.
Where we would have gone places and people would have been coming in and all, and we've had to do either virtual, like seminar and things like that. So it's kind of hindered a lot of the things that I would say I would have done over the last, I can probably
Well,
speak
and
for
I think it's
everyone.
how
Everybody, I mean,
well,
it's
that,
been
how they're set up
challenging.
too, you know, like, Or for me
But-
to go anywhere whenever I teach kindergarten through fifth grade, and
Yeah,
I only have them once a week, you know what I mean?
but
It's
it,
hard for me to take them anywhere.
but
anyway,
it
so
has
they have to
allowed
come.
for the capability, which is, like I said, it's another good thing. It's allowed for the capability for these quick virtual trips and virtual things that we couldn't do when we have K-5 multiple days, and it's only for a 45-minute. We can do a quick virtual field trip to
Right.
somewhere now that we couldn't necessarily have done before, but now we have access to all of these other resources.
Well, and
So
those
it's
people
had, there's
coming,
benefits from it. I mean, so,
those people coming to my classroom get to see what's going on in my school. You know, they get
Yeah.
to see, oh, okay, she has this going on, and she has that going on, and wow, like this is a great program. They get a chance to see your program as well.
and
rather
tell
than
others
us just
about it,
going
and
to
you
them.
get more partners
big
and
difference.
volunteers to come. It definitely helps.
So I've been writing a couple of things down as y'all are talking, the whole career exploration. I put community involvement, career-based, students given roles. Does that, and you'll have in the experience level that you do for a new elementary ag education professional, would that give them heartburn knowing that, oh my gosh, I have to talk about careers with a first grader? How am I going to do that?
Ask the experts.
Is
These
that
two were first years.
Is that something that makes you nervous, or is this relevant for them, or how do you
Yeah, I went
handle
this
that?
First year for you guys.
You know?
I didn't find it, no, because like I mean, we just approach it, really, I approach it from, like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yep.
Okay.
Wins.
And that was
Okay.
a general ed student as well.
That's right.
Great.
Yeah.
Kindergarten.
I was gonna say, even
understands
the Gales or the
Community
jails,
partners.
where you call them the pre-K standards, like talk
Yeah.
about like growth, careers and stuff. So I think
Good.
most of them have that exposure already,
Okay.
that it's
It's
super
there.
easy to
Okay.
align them. We try to so one thing we do with my kids is try to find an ag version of their job if they don't already have an ag. So like if
Cool.
they want to be, like if they want to be like a police officer, let's say, and we'll look at something like, well, what about like a DNR agent? or
Game
something
warden.
like-
Yeah,
exactly.
sure. Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
So
and
that's
I'm
good.
liking it because that is actually an involvement in their part, because you're, well, asking them, what do you want to be in the future? That's good.
Lynn, do you want to
Yeah.
keep going with your list, and as we
Yeah.
kind of dissect some of the things for question one?
Yep, so we're going to move on to our second statement now. Making a positive impact on the lives of your students. My question is, how do you make a positive impact on the lives of your students? Because I just want to share, in the Philippines, we're supposed to visit our students in their home. And that's what, have their, connections. But I don't know if it's something that it's what's going on in here, because in Maryland, we absolutely, no, do not do that. We're supposed to, no, that's a no. But how do you make a positive impact on your lives, especially if you only have 45 minutes? All of you have 45 minutes once or twice a week, or more than that.
I think everybody has different.
Yeah.
setups.
Schedule.
Mhm,
Uh-huh.
Because like I have grades 2 through 5, and I meet with them once a week,
Once a week.
for 45 minutes, but I know like,
I have mine Monday through Friday, like one homework class Monday through Friday, and we have 50-minute classes.
Okay, so you see all of your
So I see
students
them for
every
1
day.
week at a time, but I don't see them again for 6 weeks.
it makes
Which
it
is-
harder.
In itself, it's a good thing, but it's also a very challenging thing too. So one thing about being an elementary ag teacher is you have to be, your program's gonna look, it's just gonna look different,
know.
which limits
Right.
me and some of the things that I can do. I was telling her, it's hard to see like data analysis that you begin with that one classroom, because they don't see it for 6 weeks. And then when that second homework class comes, I have to go back and reteach, like, this is where we are, this is what we did,
Right.
this is what we've done, and now you're here. So they don't get to always see. So in itself.
So that's every day, Monday through Friday for a week, and then
Then-
6 weeks go by, and you see them Monday through Friday for another week.
Now that's
Wow.
just 3rd through 5th grade, because they have 6 homeroom classes, but my
Alright.
kindergarten through 2nd grade has 7, so I don't see them for 7.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna get confused on your schedule.
I'm just making note. That's
But
interesting,
isn't it
interesting.
One
So-
barrier though, that there's no fixed schedule in any, every school is different. Who
Depends
tells
on
the
their-
schedule?
Well, it all depends on their rotation for
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
special block, whatever, their PE, music,
Mhm.
STEM, ag,
Right.
camp, I mean, whatever they have.
And that's unique
Some,
to your
some have 5,
school
some
and
have
your
6,
system.
some have
So
PE, music, ag, STEM, and that's it. I mean,
Also, like
some
the
have more.
order that they do them can change too. Like, I know
Uh-huh.
some schools, like a
who
grade will
provides?
have things on the same day. But me, I have 2 3rd grade classes, 2 4th grade classes, 2 5th grade classes every day. And so like getting a guest to come is super difficult because it's like, well, they're like, I can only come on Thursday. And so if it's a guest for my 4th grade class, then 2 of my, 10 4th grade classes are gonna get a visitor and that's it.
Or just say for me, if I wanted to come talk to 5th grade, I have to have them come for
6 weeks in a row.
and you
yeah.
can't do that. So
Wow.
I can't do that.
Mhm. So who provides those schedule? Who demands that schedule? I mean,
Yeah, that's
your
The
school
county,
administrators or the
It
county?
depends, it could be a district or it could be a school, depends on how
How
it's
big you are.
set up.
So in one county, where there's several schools, there's have several,
Different schedules.
different schedules also.
Yeah, we have 10 schools in Coppell County, elementary schools, and everyone's different. I mean, they're all set. It depends on the size. See, we're a small school and we rotate through. We have STEM and ag, which are the 2 classes I teach. We have music, we have PE, and then we also have a media/guidance rotation for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Mhm.
So the way our schedule works is different from like Cox or Sunset or Stringfellow, not, well, Stringfellow's small like us, but RV, right? The ones that have 600 kids. They don't get to go through as many days like we do. I can serve that many because we have 200 kids. They go through one day in each one and that's it, because they're such a large school and they only have 1 teacher for each of those rotations. So it all depends on the number of students also.
Is there any problem about that, or am just the one feeling that it sounds complicated for me that they have different schedule. I mean, if I talk to another teacher, I can't relate because we have different.
Yeah, I will say that like on the Georgia Ag Ed website, like they provide those lessons or whatever. And I would say like looking at those, it's really funny because it's like, well, this is just not even kind of relevant to the kind of schedule that I have. And I know this is not on our positive impact thing at all, but I could see like as a new teacher coming into it, it just being so confusing, like how to run a garden. Like I came into a full-size greenhouse, a smaller greenhouse, and like 18 raised beds around our school that the ag program was supposed to take over and just run. And it's like, we'll only have the kids for 50 minutes, and that's including a 5-minute pickup and walk back time. So really only have them for 40 minutes. And each grade has different standards. Almost none of the 3rd through 5th grade standards are super garden relevant already. So it's making that a part of your class, still covering your standards, and somehow working out how each 5th grade class is going to do the same thing, because I only teach them once a week and they have to get the standards. I could see it for especially like a newer teacher, like fresh out of college, it being crazy, complicated.
Which I think is why it's important to have college, because especially if they're gonna have a student teaching experience, I'm assuming that they would, to get involved in those classrooms and see a variety of different programs in the area or wherever, because that's gonna be key in helping them wrap their head around all this.
What it's gonna be.
Thankfully, we all have classroom experience prior to teaching this class, so we kind of know how things work, and we know that being in a classroom and teaching in a school, things change all the time. And this year it may look different from next year. So that's an advantage that we all have, but a new teacher coming in is not gonna see that. So having, that whole, exposure and that seeing different setups through classroom experiences is gonna be crucial.
My question is, do you think, as an experienced teacher now, that having, similar schedule, for example, in, maybe if we are going to suggest, is that gonna help us to have an effective teaching if we have, all of us, we're gonna have a fixed schedule that we're going to see them once or twice a week for 55 minutes, or no, this one is okay. It's a localized area.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll be able to do that. I don't think
You're not
you'll
gonna
be
be
able to
able,
do that.
yeah.
I don't think you'll be able to.
Especially when it's not a mandatory thing. I mean, ag,
PE is the only thing that's
yeah,
mandatory.
elementary ag is optional. It's not a required
Okay, so
program.
it's still.
Right. See, like my school, we
It's
don't even have an
approved,
ag
but not
teacher.
required.
So we implement it in the classroom.
Because I know earlier when you were talking, you made the comment about the House bill.
House
said
Bill for
it
consideration,
doesn't
that's what
say,
they
it doesn't say
claim.
required.
required.
Yeah, and that's what Krista pointed out last week at the STEM conference. She said a lot of people are under the
Impressions.
understanding and
Uh-huh.
impression that
Because
it's
that is what they're
required.
saying, they are requiring all schools to have elementary agriculture
No.
education starting
No.
fall
No, no,
2020.
no.
No, they
Based on funding.
can now offer it at all Georgia schools. It is now state recognized, but it's not a requirement. They don't have to put the program in, but it is now a state recognized program that can be offered in all Georgia schools, is what the bill says. Because a lot of people read it and think that, so
I know,
yeah.
that's what I
It
thought.
does kind of sound that way, and she wanted to clarify that at the
Because-
conference last week.
Yeah, because still, you were just saying, still, this is not gonna be state funded.
That's what I was
Still
gonna
not gonna
say.
be.
There's no
It's up to
funding.
the
There's no
local
funding with
system to fund you as a teacher,
Mhm.
for that position. So
Right.
if they don't have the
Not
funding for that, then it's a no-go. They may have to eliminate even, so we had two computer labs
Not as.
in our school
Local.
system. One was more keyboarding and one was more STEM related. So they got rid of the keyboarding class so that I could do,
That's what they do. They got rid of the people.
and then we also still have a STEM class, which is more technology driven. So really my school system,
They found funding for it.
well, they had a parapro teaching the, class that I was taking. So really, you're looking at a $14,000 salary,
Yeah.
and then they hired me, and I have a specialist degree, so they really took a big leap in funding, me versus that, which was said a lot, for how much they believed in what we were doing, so, in the program. So it depends on the system.
Uh-huh. But what about the student? Is that something that is optional also for students, or everyone's,
If
kind of
you're,
required?
well, I mean, if you're school at the elementary level, I mean,
They
if
have
it's
to
in your
go.
rotation, I mean, it'd be like music, I mean, they'll go, I mean, with the rest, I mean.
Okay,
It's not an.
there's no
elective
fixed,
class.
requirements.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it would be a required class, just like any of the
If you
other
have it.
rotation classes.
Okay, so.
And Lynn, it was a great conversation. Anything else related to this phrase, positive impact on
Yeah,
students?
we kinda
I mean,
got off that.
I know.
that's all, I just got to bring it back.
Everybody.
But,
We
I mean,
add some stuff to that if you want, like, to make positive impacts, definitely
does that mean?
motivation, motivating them to, because they do a lot of hands-on projects, they do group projects, they're willing to take risks on projects they're not sure of how it's gonna turn out. And so just motivating them and just really, keeping them engaged.
It's almost like, I mean, taking what you're saying, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at the list, it's like the next one says make learning fun and relevant. It's almost like taking it, the next one says hands-on activity. It's like taking those three, making learning fun, hands-on activities, making those have that positive impact on students' lives. It's like you could almost combine some of that together.
Right.
Those kind of things, that hands-on, give that positive impact on the students' lives, so they actually take something out of the lesson instead of
And
just
as a
sitting there
motivation.
listening
And
to
somewhat
lecture.
You want learning to be relevant.
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 You want it to be relevant so that they take that into their life from now on.
Yeah, it gives them a
If you
purpose.
teach them gardening, then when they're adults,
They could have.
They
they can apply it to their life.
Well, they also
Make it
then relate it back to, oh, my granddaddy has a garden at his house and he grows squash and, tomatoes and cucumbers or whatever. And then they get to share that experience. So then they feel like, oh, I have something to contribute to this lesson or what we're learning.
Goes back to that ownership piece.
yeah, I
And
got
then-
both that word. That's
And then
good.
all that also leads to, like a public speaking, when they can feel like they can come out and they can talk about what they're doing. It builds those speaking skills.
Okay,
Okay, so
Good.
we can move on to the next statement. Oh, just already, making learning fun and relevant to your students.
I think that's just a part of mistakes. in
This is
teaching.
the second one.
So,
I'm doing another
it's
one.
like, of course, it's gonna be important in elementary, I get it, because I think every, time I've ever talked about my teaching, like, I feel like relevance is the thing I feel like is the most important. Like, if you can't see the relevance, then
If they cannot apply it.
you're just
to
never
their-
gonna wanna learn it or try to learn it, and so, yeah, I just see relevance as, you know, the pinnacle of importance in teaching this.
I also feel like elementary related, making learning fun and hands-on activities are gonna go, whether you're teaching agriculture, math, science,
Yeah, in
reading,
all,
I mean,
yeah.
any of them, because we
Cross,
know that,
cross-curricular.
we know that those students to hold their attention to like give them some instruction, and then we
You're
better let
right.
them go and do something with their hands and their bodies and move, or else we're gonna lose them, you're gonna have behavior issues, you're gonna have, you know, all the things.
Okay, for our hands-on activities though, what type of hands-on activities are you talking about?
Ideal. So I do have like plastic ones, or sometimes cut pictures out of, you know, Kroger ads and stuff
Or
like
I,
that.
like even I have who has game. I mean, you got something in your
Yeah.
hands. I mean,
Yeah,
I have this, who has this,
That's
somebody
right.
calls it out.
Those are
I have
hands-on
this.
activities.
And the kids are talking and interacting, and then you talk about what the
Mhm.
person is, if it's a farmer or a veterinarian. I mean, there's like resources and stuff with that. I mean, on the lessons and stuff that we have out there, and you can create other ones with different careers. And I mean, all kind, I mean, they're just interactive, doing something, not just sitting and listening to lectures, because like she said, 5 to 10 minutes.
It's gonna be
That's
fun.
it.
I know, in college too, it's.
Every 7
Same
minutes,
as
I'm
an
changing.
18
You
to
know, it's like,
22-year-old. It's the same as a 5 to a 10-year-old.
It's like,
let me ask you all this with the hands-on piece. Talk to me about the reflection that goes on after they're done. You know, because I'm thinking if I'm an outsider listening in on the other side of the wall, okay, I just got to get them doing something. But before I go to the next activity, what are you doing with them to help them process? You know, what's going on there? How is that reflection happening, if it's happening at all?
It's pretty much happening while they're going through it, while you're
Okay,
walking
during.
around during it,
Okay.
because there is no time at the end, because by the time you finish, it's time to get them back to class.
Sometimes
Okay,
you're like,
that's-
oh gosh, we
that's
are
something
late,
you've
we gotta
mentioned.
go.
And
I
that,
mean,
that was a finding
I know.
earlier,
To be
that the
honest.
short time.
Yes,
So the reflection happens during it.
yes,
Okay.
as they're
Like
working
at my
through
school, we
it.
have
Ask
across the
questions,
street.
you know,
We
get
have
your
Oh,
a
yeah.
whole walk back that like. we
And that's
talk-
actually,
Yeah.
I'm curious to know that, because I saw Justin's classroom and the setup. What about the others? Do you have a lab where, you know, set up different to a classroom setup? I mean,
So-
does everyone have a garden?
Yeah, I just have a regular classroom, and then, like I said, we have to cross the street to get to our greenhouse.
Wow.
So, you know, that's like, we have to walk, so like, if we're going to the greenhouse, that's like an additional 18 minutes of the class that you use.
Oh, 50 minutes.
Yeah, like already used, like straight up, we have to
I know,
go
right?
there, and it's not super far, but like, when you have every single exploratory changing at the same time, and you have to wait for traffic, like, I mean, when I say cross the street, like, it's still on the school property, but it's like the road that, you know, parents and buses come in on, so like, we just have to cross the road, we just have to stop, and wait 15 times.
And how, okay, this is my question. How often do you actually
No, I
plan the
just started.
hands-on? Because when I was
I just
teaching in
started
high
typing.
school, we have,
Picture
you know, what do you call that? A 1.5 hours, wherein I can actually think of an experiment that will, you know, something that they really can do. But for 55 minutes, it's like something that, well, you know, can you do it all the time? Or no, you just have to plan for.
I'd say it's kind of the opposite of teaching high school, where with high school, you know, you plan around the instruction and maybe there's an activity. There's always an activity in elementary
Okay, so
with like
it's
instruction to
every-
support it. Yeah, I would
Well, you
say.
know, classroom experiences, it should have a necessity to have an hands-on experience.
Well, or something like for my
Some
younger,
games.
I mean,
Games
sometimes,
are good.
that's what I was gonna say. It might be
doesn't
a
always have to
song,
be
it might be
building and
music.
doing
Or
the
experiment,
games
it's not-
are good too. because
Reading
the
a
kids
book and
love
maybe-
Yeah, I was gonna say, like
drawing a
with third grade, I
picture
know
and
reading a book works
sharing.
great, like a relevant book, and like, that's a big push, at least at my school. is
I
like,
use
and-
literature.
Or
Yeah,
reading
story
comprehension.
books, so like,
Very strong literature base.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
Lot of reading. And there's
building their
there's
vocabulary
all
is
the books out there too.
huge at, you know,
That's nice also
Especially
because
paper
it
too.
becomes cross-curricular.
Yeah, at my school, we're required to have an AR day at least once every 9 weeks, where at the bare minimum, we read an AR book to them that's like class relevant or whatever. But what we normally do in my class is like, we do like a mini research project, and we have this thing called My Own, which is AR books online. I don't know if y'all have that, but they have to pick a nonfiction book about any ag topic, and they like read it in a little group of 4, and then they all take their AR test, and then they present to the class what they learned about. But yeah, I'd say the literature thing is, or or just reading literacy in general is an insanely, what's the word, emphasized thing from the administration, at least at our level.
Okay, for that one, I'm just curious to know, is that under what, leadership development or under classroom laboratory instruction?
I'd say like the presentation part would be like a leadership development activity, but then the other bit would be like a classroom laboratory part.
Okay.
They kind of all go together always, kind of like he said. I mean, it's really hard to separate them, especially at this level. Like if they're not together, then, you know, something's wrong, I'd say most of the time.
Okay, for our next one is, interactive involvement with the content being taught. I think, is that something that's similar also?
Yeah. Because we talked about it, it's not necessarily something that's hands-on, it is more, it's just interactive. That's more of
that's a
the
good
word,
word,
I
yeah.
think,
Yes,
that you need
interactive.
to. Because it could be the game, it could be the dance in the room, it could be the, you know, the song and the motions and, I mean, all of those kind of things.
Like just give them a T-shirt when you're talking about cotton.
Right.
This is a cotton T-shirt. Or this is made from, and like,
It's
you know, you can like
interactive.
look across the street, be like from that cotton field over there. You know?
They are not.
And then the kids want to know, is my clothes made?
Yeah, exactly.
They
They always check their
want all the
tags.
time.
It's neat.
And that brings up the, you know, the conversation of synthetic versus, you know, man-made, you know, ground, from the ground up. And you talk about that.
Being familiar with those terminologies.
Everything.
Yeah, you get into police versus cop, then you start pulling those video clips and showing
yeah.
how they
Yes.
take plastic bottles. and
How it is made is one of our favorite
I mean,
little
like I said, video clips, I mean, some of the,
Neat.
dirty
talk
jobs.
about
Yeah.
that.
Those
It's
are
not
all
always, like I
great.
said, it's not always about a whole hands-on. You get some of those video clips and you watch that, discuss it. I mean, that's
And
just
where the
as
kids
good or
drive
just
your
as
instruction.
important. Because,
You know,
oh,
because
let's
that's
find out a little bit
conversation
more about
we went
this.
to.
Okay.
They'll
So
say,
after
that's
they watch,
smart.
okay, so for example, for that one, because well, you know, move on to that one. If you are presenting or if you are showing a video, do you have a prepared questions or an activities after that?
well, kind of like she said, well, like we were saying, that if you just kind of bring up something about cotton or you say something about the police, whatever, and you know you've got
It's
this
a
video to
discussion,
show and you know where you're going with it, but you let them kind of think
Okay.
they're driving the whole thing.
Yeah.
But, oh, let me show you this cool video. I mean, and
Yeah.
you've got it all already prepared and planned, but really you've done it, but they think they're doing it all and telling you what. And it's just, and they get more, when they're
Interactive,
involved, and going back to that first one we were talking about,
Mhm.
they take ownership, they feel empowered, they think they're kind of leading and driving the instruction and going forth with it all. And it's a lot better environment. The kids enjoy it more than you just always tell them, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're gonna do. I mean, I'll just say, I mean, from starting in that year one to starting doing more of letting them do, I've noticed a big difference. And I mean, I'm sure the ones, I
Making
know
them
you've
more
done it once, me or
empowered.
two,
and-
but yeah, that goes back to that very first one we were talking about. But yeah, I always I know what I'm going to do and what videos I've because with YouTube and stuff this day and time, you've got to preview and watch and kind of have it already done.
It's almost
So,
like an
Yeah, you gotta watch
All right.
them. Are they appropriate?
Yes.
That's
Show
right.
Dr. Nick,
That's right.
performance.
crazy stuff, you know.
Okay, so we
Even
can.
Magic School Bus.
Yeah.
You have to
God.
watch those.
It's
They're-
freezing.
Well, people do voiceovers, so it looks like Magic School Bus that you're watching, and then all of a sudden there'll be a cuss word. And you're
Oh,
like, I've never had that, but I've had colleagues that have happened, and they're like, do not watch this one, and they'll send it out. to
Okay,
you.
so the moral lessons, you have to watch the video first before you
Always,
show
always.
to your
Definitely.
students. Okay. What about providing student feedback? How do you provide students feedback? Are you talking about in the discussions or about in the after evaluations? What are we talking about providing student feedbacks in here?
Hours, and I'll just be, I talk a lot. I mean,
No, that's great. That's great.
usually we don't, and like my classes, we don't provide a letter grade, so we don't have to typically give a written grade or anything like that, but that discussion, that talk during the lesson, that walk back from the greenhouse or from the beds or whatever, from that outside experience, whatever we were doing or wherever, that discussion, that talk, and talking about what we saw, what we observed, that's a lot of the feedback because of time. For one, sometimes we may be working on a project that we work on over an extended period. Those journal entries, there will
Okay,
be,
so
we'll do that.
that's a
The teacher, I'm trying, this is one of our big pieces that we're working on, trying to improve upon in the coming year, is working with the teachers and the journaling piece. And the teachers will do a lot of that journal grading because they're trying to get that literacy component along with that science versus some of the STEM. So that'll be some of the feedback, and they'll do some, and I'll probably do some as well, as far as like writing some feedback and put some notes and stuff in there as we work into some of that this year.
So like our journals at my school, we call them their STEM journals, and their goal with those is to connect all their classes together. Because like our thing is that, STEM connects all of our other classes together. So like if they're in social studies and they have like a question, like when they're talking about farming something and they think it's ag related, they write it down in their journal as like, that's a question from Mr. Holbrook, we'll talk about that in ag. And so when they come to me, they pull out their journals. And the first thing we do, like once we get in the classroom, is do you guys have any things that, that connect ag to social studies or connect ag to math
To
or whatever? And
mathematics
so,
or science.
and then the same way in ag, when we talk about something that they think is related to another class, like one day we had to buy a replacement door for our greenhouse. And so I had them measure it, take the area and perimeter of our greenhouse door. And so, I set them up, but then they're like, oh, this is math related or whatever. So then they write that down, and they go back to math. So we kind of like just reinforce each other all the time. It's like that's another tool that we use to kind of see what they're learning in both places,
It's kind of neat that, my intake is that, you are making sure that your lessons is cross-curricular and it's applicable also to the other, and you're not just, teaching about agriculture. You gotta make sure that those students understand, that math thing, you can actually relate it to agriculture. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I send out an email every week. That's like I call it my cross curriculum email, and I go through each subject and put the standard from that grade and that subject. And I'm like, this is what we talked about in ag that you can relate when you guys cover this standard, or I know you guys covered this standard. We reinforced it this week with this, and so I send one of those every Friday.
Oh, that's kind of neat too, because that's goes to student feedback. So you're saying that you have to send an email to all of your students once a week, and that's part of the feedback, right? So that's effectively.
So I put that on like my Google Classroom, and then I also send it to the teachers as well. So
What about the parents? Are you forwarding it to
I
the
haven't,
parents
but
too?
we have something on our Google Classroom where like all the teachers parents can log into their Google Classroom, so I know they could see it. But yeah, I haven't done anything with the parents yet, but I definitely could. Like we have like a hub for that I could stick them on as well.
And do you think they are, reading those messages? I'm talking about the students.
Oh, I know the students do. Yeah, for sure. They love that. That's oddly enough something that, I call high school for too long, but I can't get over how like excited they are about learning, at that level. But yeah, they love when they like make connections. Like they'll be super excited. Like, they read a book that was just about a flower, and they're like, man, we talked about cut flowers in here. They're talking about flowers in this book.
Okay, I'm
Great.
not familiar with that Google Classroom. Is that the one that you can, you send a message and then a student can, respond on that particular
Yeah, they can make
messages?
comments and stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's just like an announcement.
So that's feedback. That's kind of cool. Okay.
Also with providing feedback, I have a board outside of my room. It's not a super huge like bulletin board, but it's a smaller one. And I'm always taking pictures and always capturing their learning and always just giving them that positive motivation to make them enjoy ag more, because a lot of the kids have not had that exposure, just like we were talking about.
Mhm.
Everybody's program looks different. My students, when they come to me, they come from so many different types of households, so many different backgrounds, whether their parents may be from the Caribbean or, so just trying to connect to where they are, but also motivating them to want to do more. Like a lot of them will second guess themselves, whether it's building a hummingbird feeder or whether it's building a spice rack. They're not sure. So building that confidence and giving them feedback, I'm constantly walking around, constantly helping them. And if they feel like they don't have whatever it is, I always invite them to come back during their spare time, whether it's lunch or because a lot of times their planning period is, my planning period is during their lunch. But I'm always highlighting whether it's Miss Johnson's third grade class for coming in to work as a team, and I'll put it across my door and kind of like in a celebration mode. Always highlighting pictures. They'll check Twitter. Our school has a big time Twitter page, and whenever they do something really big, I will take pictures and give them a huge kudos for that. And we're working towards STEAM certification also. So each grade level has a different ag theme that they're related to. So for instance, fourth grade, they're working on composting. So they have the worm bins in their classroom. They might bring their worm bins down if they feel like something's going on, and we'll meet, we'll talk, we'll give feedback. They have their journals. And so whatever it is that they need, I'm there to support. And then I also try to bring some of them in the morning. So I just, and I'm there at the door as they come in the morning. So just making those connections and giving them that motivation that they need to still want to be a part of ag. And then I have an ag club as well. So just giving the feedback is definitely what the kids totally need, because that self-confidence is really necessary.
I think where my school's different is because we don't have an ag classroom. So we do student surveys to have data to support why we need an ag teacher. And it helps hopefully get us the funding that we need in order to put someone in the building. So we send it out to the students, we send it out to their parents, to our community partners, and they do the survey based on what they feel like the students' needs in the area and things like that. And then we're able to combine it, and then we'll eventually present it to our school board.
Where are you? We can all come.
Let's go.
We can all go.
Yes,
School
let's
board
go.
meeting, and
Yeah.
we can all just, get a little snippet
Exactly.
about what we're
Exactly.
doing. We'll get you one.
Thank you. Yes, we need it. We need it.
Amanda, you're a classroom teacher in an elementary setting, and every teacher is teaching ag for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, so we do one ag lesson a month. Myself and another teacher and our assistant principal are responsible for doing the lessons, and we give the lessons, all the materials, everything that they need, and hand it out to the teachers. And then so I do ag ed Fridays in my classroom, and then I invite the other teachers to come out, and I kind of just lead it for them.
Okay.
And they, bring their kids if they want to. If they don't, they don't. But we were very, very lucky this past school year to get a grant from Georgia Organics, where they partnered with 2 local farmers in our community that have a passion for food sustainability and the hunger, because my school's in a very low demographic area. So they partnered with us, and we have our, they help come in and show the kids how to garden, took them to their garden. We had a farmer's market that they helped provide, and then we just had community partners come in twice a month and present based on the ag ed standards for those grade levels, and rotated it through like a specials.
Okay.
But it's a lot of planning.
Yeah, additional planning.
Right, on
That's
top
what
of
we
being
already
a
do.
general ed teacher.
That's right.
I think the next one is 2 to 5 hands-on experiences, indoors and outdoors. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we agreed that every lessons we're supposed to have hands-on experiences.
Yeah, I didn't rate that one very high because you can't put a number with it. Just feel like that's something that.
It's a given, yeah.
It's a given.
Okay, so we can move on to the next one. Allowing students to learn about the world around us. So I think that's connections also. So allowing students to independently build projects. If the subject problem-based learning or project-based.
That one,
How
so
are
what do
we-
you mean?
Yeah, the word independently there, I was like.
That's right, that's what I'm saying.
It's
There's
not
not
a
whole lot of
big
independent
project.
work. A lot of small groups.
A small group that they can actually finish in one class, or are we talking about big projects in here wherein it's a semester's project or a quarter project?
I think it's both.
I'd say, yeah, most of those big projects like that for me become like what we call grade projects. Probably like 4th grade ag, you guys are doing this pollinator garden. And so, Mondays, guys, they weeded the area, and
okay.
Tuesday they did this, and so like, from start to finish, but like
Okay,
there's
so
just,
continuing.
because it would just take a year if we, did it like one class every 50 minutes, once a week.
Which kind of goes back to that SAE, experiential learning kind of thing. You take a class and say, all right, you know, in middle school, high school, a student has that project that they do, but in elementary school, our kindergarten, this is what we do for the year. First grade, this is what we do for the year. Second grade, this is what we do. So we just work through an entire project, each grade level, so that when they get to middle school and high school, they understand the process
how
of
to do
going
it.
through an entire project from start to finish. So
Uh-huh.
they're more prepared for that process when they get to middle school level. So that if they decide they want to do a
Pursue.
garden and start a business and sell the produce or whatever, they've done that entire process in elementary school. If they want
Well,
to
it
do.
really gives them something to look forward to also, because my second graders will say, well, I want to do that. And I'm like, when you
You
get to
gotta
third
wait
grade,
till fourth grade.
then
You
you're
gotta
gonna be
wait
able
till
to do
fifth
that.
grade.
You know,
Uh-huh.
and then you're gonna, right now, you can look at it and observe it. And,
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
know,
so it's like
get
an
excited, but-
introductions to that activity. when
Yeah.
they- But my question is independently. Is that allowing students to independently? How are we going
It
to?
really, should- like I said, it really should be independent / small group, because there's some independent work, but a lot of times it's small group, even whole group,
Yeah.
sometimes depending on what you're working on.
And
Okay.
depending on timing too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I've done projects where you might have started one class period, I have to collect them and put them away until the next week when they come. And then their name is on their container, I pull them out and they continue to work on it, and then they can put them up. Or either I'll put them up on the wall. or whatever.
Really, the only thing I do independently is career research. Like whenever they are researching a career that they are interested in, where they do a career inventory online and then
Uh-huh.
they explore it further. That, I don't do much other than that. independently.
And that
Yeah,
one,
that's the only thing that I can think of.
and that one, you give that assignment in.
I really don't.
You just say student, allow students to.
Like our ag lab is right across the hall from our art room. And a lot of times she'll start a project, or I'll start a project, and that project will go there so they can add the art piece to it.
Yeah. Like
For
an art
some-
activity
So,
independent, but-
so if they're making.
So teaching, teachers collaborations is
Right.
the key.
Right.
Also
So
making sure
sometimes
that-
they'll have their own independent, whether they're making the motivational rocks or whatever, or whatever it is they're doing. Some things are independent, some things are small.
Small groups. But it's always, teacher, you guide your students, or you just, give the instructions in a piece of paper and you just let, it's exploratory. What do you do? It's, do you give the instruction and how, step by step how to do it, or you kind of, okay, your group can decide on how are you going to do this?
I think for the younger kids, you have to do step by step. Coming from first grade, and I'm gonna teach kindergarten this year, they need step by step. You can give them, options of maybe what color they want to paint their rock or things like that, but you have to give them, first we do this, next we do that, because if you let them go wild, they're gonna be cutting each other's hair or something.
Uh-huh. So always providing,
It's kind of
instruction.
like, I mean, when you go back to the statement, how do you effectively define effective teaching? I mean, it's like taking that one about independently building, taking some of the others and combining them, allowing students to independently build or work in small groups for the project at hand or whatever. I mean, because depending on what you're doing, sometimes you're gonna do the independent, sometimes you're gonna do small groups. So it's almost like it really needs to be combined with some others if you want to put that as one of the criteria under that. Because it's really part of a statement. It's just one part of it. It's that independent
We
part.
put those together. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, allowing students to become self-sustainable in primary school.
Ultimately, yes, that is, you want them to be independent, and you want them to be self-sufficient. But ideally, in elementary school, that's not ideal. I mean, we're trying to give them the tools and we're trying to teach them to be responsible and do those kind of things. But it's not developmentally appropriate at that age level, unless you're looking at individual jobs, classroom jobs, things that are reoccurring each week, or each time you have them, like they know that this is what they're doing, or they know that this person has this job or that whatnot.
Yeah, I was kind of like on that one, just a little iffy on what it even meant, like, just, because like, and my county primary is only up to second grade, and I'm just like, I mean, what exactly do they consider self-sustainable there too? So I found that one a little confusing.
And it's all in how you look at it too. I mean, it's like, now that we've been doing the elementary ag, kids are learning about gardening and growing and providing food for themselves. When the whole COVID thing started, I mean, I started getting texts from parents, hey, so-and-so started a garden this year. I mean, families have never grown a garden. Well, we didn't even know what to do, but so-and-so got out there and they showed us how to lay out the rows, and we've got corn and we've got peas and we've got, and I have kids, different families sent pictures of gardens they were growing that year because the kids had been learning about it and helped the parents learn how to plant a garden. I was like, it makes you feel good when hey, these kids are teaching the parents the things they learned at school. So I was like, hey, and it was like single family moms with kids at home. It was like, hey, it's great to know that the kids are actually taking something from it and learning some things. So that is some of that
Involving their
sustainability. Now, will they be able to be fully sustainable, like you said, at that age? No, but
We're giving
some of
them
the
tools,
basics and the
to
tools
be
and
able
the
to
things,
do it
that,
and
yes,
practice
it's
it,
an
but
important
But
part.
they're not.
But I don't know that I would say
Self-sustainable.
the wording,
I think it depends.
yeah.
It really depends because everybody here does different things.
Well,
Like,
and you're so right about that, not thinking about the
Right.
kids who are the parents in their homes.
Right.
Because
Because
because they are a little more sustainable than, my own children who have parents who do more than they should for them, you know what I mean? So you probably do have more.
Right, and so a component, like when I look at the standards, I make the standards work for me. Like, for instance, if I know that it's something that my kids need, like my kids don't have somebody at the house all the time. So teaching them about creating healthier snack options or exposing them to just making smoothies and easy recipes that you could do that's gonna help who you are. I do see where some of those kids will take some of the stuff that we're learning in class and do it at
Apply
home.
it.
And so most kids have an air fryer at home. Okay, let me show you guys how to make some healthier snacks. They're doing it and they're taking pictures of it and they're showing it. So I think that the foundational piece starts in elementary. I know at our school, we have a pathway where middle school, they have ag, and then at the high school level, they have ag, which is kind of uncommon in the metro Atlanta area. So for them to build that pathway, we're giving them the support on the elementary level to make sure that they are able to feel self-sustainable, to carry on with whatever that means to them, to the real world, whether it's eating healthier, building their own garden, or I know we have like an egg business where the kids will sell the eggs, even though most of the parents will buy them online. The kids take pride in making sure they inspect the eggs and making sure that everything is perfect for drop off and pick up. So there are some ways to, and I just think it's different for everybody's program.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of allowing students, preparing students. to
Yeah.
become-
Yeah.
I like that word.
Preparing, yes.
I think
And
the
instead of
verbiage
allowing, it's preparing.
changes it.
Preparing students to become
Sustainable.
Sustainable.
self-sustainable.
I think the
And
verb
maybe even
is
leave
the,
primary out, because like I said, that could be K2 at some schools, it could be K3, K5, K8. It just depends on, I would just say in elementary school maybe, because we're talking EAE elementary. So allowing
Preparing
students,
students to
preparing
become
students to become
self-sustainable.
self-sustainable in elementary school.
yeah.
Okay, great, that's
So
excellent.
I think we can move on to the next statement. Providing students with basic knowledge of agriculture understanding based on the Georgia standard.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what we're supposed to do, right?
That's
So-
right.
Sounds good.
Yep. Okay, so allowing students to use what they know to research. And I think Robbie mentioned that, well, by giving independent research. Does everyone need, do that too, independent research?
I think like giving them that, we have a couple of standards that are like,
Yeah.
they say research specifically, but
Mhm.
I think really giving them that research base much earlier, because I know like as a student, I don't think I did research in elementary school at all, but, and I've gotten a lot of community feedback about how much they love that, like from our 4-H, because she's gone to do projects with them, and she's like, you've like already shown them like And like, we do like, I say research, and I mean very basic level, but like, they just, you know, go get a nonfiction text, you know, and like, they could cite that, you know, they cite their one book that they used or whatever.
Okay.
But, I think that, what does it say? Yeah, I think allowing students to research is an awesome thing. I don't know that I would like say that that's effective teaching is allowing students to research, but I think it's an
It's a
effective
method.
thing in that, yeah.
It's just a method.
Incorporating
It's just a-
research
it's just a
into-
strategy. It's just a strategy.
But yeah, I think it's good in the EAE classroom for sure.
Great.
Exposure is great.
Exposure to research. Allowing students to explore and demonstrate for a deeper understanding. How do you do that? Exploring and demonstrating deeper understanding. Just in a discussions or
That's
application?
that's like through hands-on.
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it
Okay.
deeper.
Evaluation on the hands-on, and that's how you
Okay.
evaluate.
Okay.
A deeper understanding. Okay. Teaching and showing students the real world value of those standards and how they can be applied to their everyday life.
Okay.
Yeah, that goes back to like the relevance thing. Yeah, like it's, I think that's super important. It's just showing them
Yeah.
that,
There's application.
Basically the same thing 2 or 3 times. Is there anything that's missing? Anything to add?
Some of the common themes is definitely hands-on activity.
Yeah, okay, good.
Learning relevant.
yeah, like
And that can hands-on building.
community and locality, I think is gonna be a big thing. Like just, like from community involvement over there down to the locally relevant content to your lower left. Oh, you missed it.
Okay, so locally relevant,
Yeah, because I think those kind of work hand in hand, because the locally relevant content is gonna be related to that community, you know, so.
now, if we were to make this one, would you prefer one over the other, or should we reword it? Either locally relevant or community involvement, or?
I would reword it to locally relevant content through community involvement.
Oh, okay. Hey, Doc, you got that?
Got it.
Okay.
And then also the career-based and career explorations go under that umbrella as well.
Okay, so should we keep one or the other? Or?
And my other question is, are we supposed to categorize this on the tree model, or they're all integrated together? What do you think? I mean, which ones falls under effective teaching for classroom? Which one falls under effective teaching for leadership, or we are just
Yeah, I would say that they're all umbrella.
combined
Yeah.
together? And,
A really interesting thing I've heard today from our conversations that overlap with the 3 circles.
overlap.
Yeah, the 3 circles are a lot closer together, you know.
It's hard to
Yeah.
separate because they all fit into
That's correct.
one or more, or at least.
Other things we should consolidate or change.
So like, you've got journaling, then we have reflection, then, we've got conversations. I think we could kind of put a lot of that together into just, you know, yeah, student reflection and feedback, maybe, yeah.
Okay, reflections and journaling and stuff.
Okay, so if I said feedback through reflection, if I wrote that, I can get rid of some of these.
I think so, yeah.
Should we still include student feedback or just feedback?
I think just feedback's fine.
Okay, so feedback through reflections.
Okay, so hey, Doc, so feedback through reflection
Just get
is
here.
gonna get rid of, help me out,
This one.
we're gonna get rid of this,
Yeah.
okay?
What about
The calling in
Stop.
our.
okay?
Yeah.
And then also the other one, the conversation, lecture.
So that'll go away.
What about this one, interactive? Is that go with that too, or it's different?
Yeah, I think that's different, yeah. We've got another conversation over there. I'm not exactly sure what you wrote.
I know, conversations while walking,
Oh, yeah, see, I think that's a part of that, yeah.
okay? Doesn't matter where it's happening, but it's just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that one, email send, is that, part of the feedback too, email send, each week?
Yeah, that would be email to reflection, yeah, or
Okay.
feedback to reflection.
It would. Okay, so your email, where was that?
Right up under that.
Also sharing pictures, social media, collecting data, that's all considered that.
So I think what we're going to do, Dr. P, is I cannot put it number 2 here, and then we can put, oh, this is under number 2. But the process, that's why, I can put it, feedback.
Yeah, but that says
include
providing,
emails.
beginning there, it says providing feedback.
Yeah.
At the
Okay.
very top.
Oh, there you go.
So you can just
Yes,
put
so
providing
everything
feedback
there.
through
But you'll
reflection.
include
Conversation.
email, conversations.
And then
jobs,
add the
stuff like that,
reflections
yeah.
during activity.
Just check that through reflections, conversations, emails.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 2 reflections.
Don't tell me if that's all right, providing feedback through reflection, and then we're gonna get rid of this, because now I've already written.
Right.
Correct.
So then you say, yeah, providing feedback through reflections, conversation,
And then
sharing,
sharing,
yeah.
sharing and collecting data, is that under here also? Okay, collecting, so everything in here is just under providing.
And what we're doing here now is, I'm putting these lines through, this is important information, I think, for them, but for what we're gonna do next, we're just gonna add this, is what we're gonna add here. And that's why I'm not gonna totally scratch that.
Yep. But I will include that on my
Yeah, that's good.
information on how do you actually provide feedback. So it's going to provide examples in here. And the one that you are going to see in round 3 is just providing feedback through reflections.
What is the last one on that page you was just referencing?
Local
Yeah.
connection.
Local.
Local connections.
Local
okay.
connections.
So that can be
Which,
included in
yeah.
the,
We already have that up there.
yeah.
Community involvement.
Oh, here, here.
And then the other side, on the second sheet, there, anonymous is locally relevant.
Oh, here, that this one is under here.
Can we get rid of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already in there, local relevant.
So this is, okay.
So, okay,
Yeah,
Doc,
I'm with you.
okay.
Locally relevant content, providing feedback. Okay, what else?
And then we have hands-on on the second poster and the 4th poster.
Okay.
Hands-on, hands-on.
Hands-on, interactive.
You need to
And
be
hands-on
Can be
ownership.
objective-based, hands-on, experimental, like, it's all under the same umbrella of strategy.
Okay, so I'm going to erase this one and then add on a hands-on. Is that what you're saying?
Would that be interactive?
Yeah.
Would that be
Yeah.
all under interactive?
Okay,
Then it would be hands-on.
interactive is our statement, and then under that is hands-on activity. So I will just go with the put here, number 3, and then hands-on activities that interactive.
Also,
You
you
could say-
do motivation, engagement,
Running relevant.
Okay, so this is engagement, so that's under number 3 also, interactive. Okay, and then get each other's. That's interactive too.
but they're under the ownership.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this seemed like this is my work, but this seemed like something y'all were really mentioning a lot. I just wanna make sure that's an okay word for you, but yeah, that's really neat.
Experiential learning can go under interactive, I think, unless y'all disagree.
Or do you want to just put experiential learning instead of interactive, and then experiential learning under experiential is learning.
That- yes,
Interactive.
yes, yes, that would be good.
Okay, so instead of interactive, you go with the C, experiential learning, and under this one are interactive, motivation, and then engagement.
So if we cross out interactive, it's gonna represent this.
That experiential learning.
So that, if we're gonna get rid of interactive, it's gonna be covered under experiential learning. Now, what about the word ownership? What about that? That piece?
Well, underneath the experiential learning, could you say include hands-on ownership? Or
Okay, that's a good question. What do y'all think?
we like it.
That's an interesting, I mean,
Yes.
so when you say experiential learning, you are saying that's hands-on and that's giving the students a sense of ownership.
Absolutely.
That's how you define experiential. That's great. That's, yeah, okay. So that's good. So I'm gonna put us right through this. And experiential learning is gonna cover that.
So I can just remember that, number four, I will gonna put number three here, so I would know that this is
Sure, that
under
sounds good.
this one. What about this Jordan? Is that under experiential learning or it's another?
Reflection. The feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback.
Feedback to
Okay,
reflect.
so feedback,
Feedback to reflection.
So what's that?
Journal
Two?
element under that.
providing feedback. So I think that is number, two, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to
I think you
put
got that.
here, number two, so I can remember that's under number two.
And then also, objective based, you can mix with, cross curriculum. So the reading literature aspect can go into the objective based standards or content.
On the clear based on goals.
For that one, we're going to, yeah.
And then we got reading,
No,
literature.
reading literature on the fourth one.
Okay. So this,
It's our fourth one. Is this, what you're saying, that this is our fourth, statement,
or is that under something?
or?
If we not have four already, then yeah, I'm saying, yeah, that would be four. If I'm agreeing with her, then.
Yeah, so objective based and the reading will go together.
Okay, so what is our statement?
We could almost say like cross-curricular,
Yeah,
objective-based
learning.
instruction or
Yeah.
something like that.
So we can write cross-curricular. And then under that is that reading and literature literacy,
So,
and
yeah,
then
put
objective.
your four there for your big,
Yeah.
and then the little one would be like the reading litter, or,
Yeah, and then writing, whatever.
Okay, so I will write this.
yeah.
Okay. And then, okay, so number four is cross-curricular, then, under that are reading and literature, objective based. What else?
I think the whole last one we can get rid of because I'm rolling in other things.
What's here?
Yeah, the other.
Yeah, because like independent work and small group work, those are just like strats you're gonna use, really. They're not under like a topic.
What about
Isn't that part of like you can umbrella under the ownership portion? You know, just pick another role, whatever number that
Or
was.
they could put that, well, it could be with a community.
Yeah, I would say it's like
Local
kind of
relevant
split, yeah.
Community, wherever that, it could go with it. Where was it going? Is that a number? Your
Okay.
local relevant.
Yeah, I think that's number one, right?
Was that number one?
Yeah, we haven't numbered it. I think that was the first.
Okay, hold on.
Your local yeah.
Oh, thanks. Okay, got it.
That's
So
it.
under number one is this one
I don't
preparing,
know what y'all think, like this.
or.
Can we
this
get like
under
a one
experiential.
and three and?
One and three.
Experiential learning and locally relevant, so self-sustainable.
I mean, it does fit both, but people are.
Depends which.
You want to make it locally relevant, but depending on your kids, but you also, it's experience-based. I mean, so it fits both. I mean, some of them will.
I mean, if you teach your kid to like forage, and they live in inner city Atlanta, it's
Yeah.
not gonna be locally relevant,
So am I going to put both of them under,
Or
is that how I'm going to write?
If you don't think it's.
Just put it under experiential learning, but you'll do it based on the local area where you are. So just put it under three, and then you just, as a teacher, whoever the teacher is, would put it based on the area in which they're working.
Based on what we need.
So like for what we're about to do, when we say, when you see experiential learning, it's gonna encompass this kind of stuff. That, we're in agreement about that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great, okay. So I will get rid of that just to consolidate, make it easier. That's good. That's, yeah, filter it down.
Engaging in research, where are we going to put
And
that?
then
Or
also number three.
number three also, experiential learning.
Okay.
Everyone agree with that? Engaging in research is experiential learning.
Very well.
Fun and relevant. Where are we going to put that? Or is that another?
It's part of it. I mean, it's, yeah, so.
Okay, number three also. Okay, so I think we only have four.
That's okay.
That's good.
Anything else that needs to be consolidated?
And now on our last round, we are actually just going to rate this statement from highest to lowest. So while we are preparing to do that, maybe just think about what do you think is the most important in elementary agriculture. Okay, and then we're going to give you qualtrics where if you can rate it, which one do you think is most important or less important?
Yeah.
But all of these are actually
so
our
I think-
definitions of it.
So providing feedback through reflection is there. So you got that.
Cross-curricular objectives based, that stays.
Hang on a
It's,
second.
it's
So
on
the,
the second.
yeah, so like, so what, so.
Here, let me-
So-
So experiential learning, got it.
What you're doing is right, you're creating, you're using all these to write one statement of what.
Well,
That's what
what
you're.
we're doing is we're taking these little blocks and we're kind of putting them in baskets. So right now we've got 4 baskets that we consolidated this into. And those 4 baskets, like the ones that have the numbers,
Right.
they're the ones that we're gonna rank. It's in seconds. So providing
And you're
feedback.
ranking those.
Lower
Like,
round,
what is,
providing feedback. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, like,
So-
what are we
Yeah.
getting from this? What is your end goal for this?
Yeah, so what Len is interested in is from your standpoint, effective teaching in the broader elementary ag classroom involves all of this. But there are 4 big buckets. And those are those 4 buckets we've got here, and then we're gonna rank, if you can, which one is most important. That's the
The
time.
one thing.
The one thing that yes,
So there's gonna be.
all
4
of these
things to
are
rank.
all important, obviously. But which, well, you know, if, for example, what are you going to prioritize if you are going to, well, you know,
Right, so then what is your end goal with this one thing? What are you doing with this one thing?
we are defining effective teaching.
Right, so it can't be one thing. If it's a statement, it can be more than one thing. It could be these 4 buckets.
That's
But
right.
these are all our definitions, actually. We just trying to, well, you know, rate.
That's right. Now, what this is a bunch of ingredients that make up effective elementary education.
I know, and
There are 4 themes that have emerged from this. And you're gonna get those in a second. And you're gonna be asked to provide the most important of those 4 things is what? The second most important is what? The third most and the right in the order from most important to least important.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around, like, what you're doing with these important things. Are you designing a class? Are you?
Yeah, it's part of the
Are
curriculum.
you building your curriculum? Okay, so therefore, you know, that's, you can't just teach one of these things. So,
and everything,
You know what I
all
mean?
of these,
Yeah.
you know,
So that's what, I mean, for me, I wanna know what your end goal is, so then I know how to direct what I'm telling you, what I'm talking to you about too, so that I can.
That helps. Yeah.
So you're using this to design a classroom curriculum.
or inform future teachers also,
Make sure I
that, you
didn't
know,
miss that.
if they want to be an effective teacher in elementary agriculture, these are the things that they need to prioritize, or, you know, constantly. And according to the current teacher, these are the most important things, or, you know, this is the next important.
So it's gonna inform pre-service teacher preparation programs.
Right.
That's what we're kind of using. It's not a generalizable thing. It's just we're using your input to come up with this as a starting point. And then I would love to see this in a bigger audience, you know, take what y'all said and then confirm it with more teachers, you know, and say, okay, here's what our panel said, is kind of get the door open. Let's see what y'all think about this. So, yes, so that is the whole, well, let me just
Okay,
make sure.
this is number one. Number
So you
two,
have that, you got that.
locally relevant And then 4 is positive feedback on lives of students. And they were just going around.
But that's okay, she's gonna get these for her data, but they're just gonna wait on the fifties.
The big
We got it.
I think number 4 was actually where people went with the cross-curricular as the main topic.
Yeah.
Under expression learning, the number 4 was cross-curricular.
She just said cross-curricular.
Through, you know, regular.
Yeah.
Thanks, that's great.
This year, you kind of got a foundation that you
Process.
Okay, I know this one.
That's number 4.
So under
Instead of spending hours building one, you run through it. I need to do this year. I need to do this year.
No, that's okay.
That's what
We're gonna just plan.
it's the first year of building.
And then just to remind everybody, so 1 is most important, 4 is least important.
Yeah. So once you've got that published, we'll give them the.
QR code, it's already on the board, but don't do it yet.
So we have to put one at each level.
It's got more, gonna make ranking from number 1
Yeah.
to number
I know, and that's the
I know,
hard
it's
part.
kind of hard, but
Balance.
I know,
throughout, like,
to pick which one is the most important.
because they all work together. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
They
know,
don't-
that's why.
I'm
sorry.
I
Well, let's
just don't know
just
the
remind
right way to do
Let's
it.
just rework
Yeah,
it.
but I'm going to include it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to include that in my research, that way you know, it's also, it's
And then they
really
can-
hard to measure the importance of this stuff, but for the sake of.
How do, so the 4, let me ask you, so the 4 buckets that you're talking about
Uh-huh.
is going to answer this question, how do you define?
How do you
effective
define
teaching?
effective teaching? And these are, okay, all of those actually, all those 4 boxes are our definition of effective
I
teaching.
must have.
But, for the sake of, well, you know, giving a rating, the most important is, for example, making sure that you have
Using
experiential
local
learning in your
content
class.
for community involvement while providing.
Yeah, I got positive impact on those lists.
Yes, effective teaching in an elementary ag classroom involves students and learning by creating positive learning environments through experiential learning by providing relevant.
Totally relevant.
All right, how do you define effective teaching in elementary ag? Effective elementary teaching is by providing experiential learning using cross-curricular content, using locally relevant content through community involvement, and providing feedback through reflection.
Okay, so, you were telling me that we don't need to rate it.
We don't need, we need all of it.
Okay.
All 4 of these
Yeah,
are part of it. We just need
Absolutely,
to
that's. part
word
of
it like she and I just reworded it.
Yeah.
The end of it is
Can
the
you repeat
feedback.
it one more time so we can record it in our?
This, I mean, are you agree? Is that how you?
Yeah, that's how I have it written.
All right.
Okay,
How do you
As one
define
statement.
effective teaching in the elementary ag classroom? Effective elementary teaching is through experiential learning using cross-curricular
Okay, that's it.
cross-curricular instruction through locally relevant content through community involvement and providing feedback through reflection. So take
Okay.
the 4 statements, but like I said, it needs to
And
be tweaked and worded
I
exactly.
did say, involves students and learning by creating positive learning environments through.
You got it wrote down?
Through reflection.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's
But
get the word.
that's the only thing that I have is.
So she's got it
So
wrote down.
positive
You got the whole
learning.
statement.
I'm
No,
going to
I don't
take a
have the
picture
whole
of the
statement.
definition.
Oh, you don't have it wrote down?
Combine.
Well,
Well, I have it, but
we'll-
it's just.
give us a minute, we'll
They
get you a
look a little
second.
different.
Yes.
No, you didn't.
Your handwriting's needed.
Yeah, keep that there, Miss Stevens.
That's good.
We're gonna take all 4 and make one.
Okay. And then just go with the-
We don't need to separate. There's no ranking. They're all equally important, right? I mean, that's the way we see it.
And I'm going to.
Yeah, but this is very, very good, and that's great, so you got that, she's got to break that out, and she's gonna put her results, but that's really interesting. It's almost like that writing, it's almost like y'all are writing a mission statement.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're looking at a syllabus.
Yeah.
And you're looking at what are
Or
you
this
gaining
course,
from
what
this
you get.
course?
These-
This is it. And this is
And
how
you
you're
can't
gonna break it
randomly
down.
leave
You're-
one out or the other. You need all four components.
Which, and I'll tell you, that is wonderful because, and that's an important result of our day so far with this, is that you all have decided that they have equal balance. You know, those four things. But look at where we started. I mean, that's a heck of a question. Effective elementary ag ed. And boom, we've got this great list that has 4 buckets. And those are the big 4. Y'all agree, those are the big 4. That's wonderful. Yeah. And then Lynn's gonna move us to our second question, where we'll kind of do this similar kind of process.
Okay.
She had to run for the rest.
Oh, that's okay. This is great. This is really cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here, I'm gonna do the second one. And then that'll probably be it because
Positive learning
um,
environments, which is the only thing. that
we
I
got lunch and then Jade's starting
Through.
one.
She's
Okay.
not gonna have any, I don't. They all
But it does.
so she can start at 1.
Oh, good. Okay,
Or we can
thanks.
adjust a little bit, it's fine. I just want to make
Part of
sure.
learning.
Okay, so. I'll tell you what, man, it's, I think it's UGA 627. I think I know it by heart now. Oh, gee. Wait a minute, why did it? Okay. All right. This is really a neat, I mean, I don't know why, now it's not letting me do anything. We're so exploratory right now that this is a really neat result, I think, of what we've got. You know what I mean? I mean,
You can tell this to record to your machine instead of to the cloud.
yeah, that's what I got it.
When you do
And
it.
Yeah.
that's a provide.
Yeah.
But you still need internet to do that?
Well, I'm trying to get into like Qualtrics and let me see if it'll let me. do it.
Through
Whoopsie.
curricular.
Some of these structures change.
I mean, it can be tweaked and modified a little bit, but
They can.
the main.
Okay.
Say using.
So,
Using.
Let-
Yes, I like that.
Cross curricular.
yeah, that's great to be able to have a statement like that. Hey, Lynn, this is a really neat result of today. I mean, so here's what I'm thinking. So just looking at time,
Mhm.
you tell me. I think that this,
Rank these from importance on 1 to 4.
that's right, but that's what's so hard about Delphi, is
Yeah.
anything, trying to rank.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes, oh my gosh, we'll get into really heated debates about, well, this is more important than this, or no, wait a minute, this is, but that's what's so hard, but this is nice.
Like, what's one of those?
Which one of these, if we had to do one, just with our time we've got today? Because this is a great conversation. You got a lot of great data, you know.
Maybe relevant
I can't
experiential learning.
think because they're all part of the circle. This is what
Isn't that your paper about
this is
thinking
part
about
of the
standard
circle
rank?
and experiential and this is leadership. So we just have to do it quickly, probably.
I would say,
Local.
because one of the things I'm learning from this group this morning is they believe the 3 circles go together.
Mhm.
So that's okay, we'll do this on the fly. Let's talk about effective teaching and let's ask them to think about it. in
Yeah.
terms of the
Experience. Okay, and
experiential
just
and life skills.
experiential learning and then life skills and then in the classroom. Oh,
Well,
don't worry about it.
I would just say effective teaching in terms of methods to do these things, methods. That get at this idea of effective teaching.
So are we going to have a different question for survey one?
Well, I
Using
would,
community relevant content.
I would
That works
call
by using
everything under
community relevant
effective
content.
teaching, and I would
That
say,
brings it all in.
talk to me about
Keep the
effective
word
teaching.
relevant.
Talk to me about effective teaching regards to this.
They can
I
use
have not been discussed
Yeah. community
specifically
relevant
today.
Okay.
This has been discussed quite a bit.
Okay.
So you might want to say, let's talk
So we're
about,
not going to have a survey anymore, we're just going to have a discussion,
let's,
or are we still?
We
Or why
have-
not, okay, yeah, we already have, okay, with the question number 2, it's already there. Why
It's
not?
ready?
Yes, it's
It's
ready.
ready. So let's use that as our starting point.
Okay.
But
And
let's
then-
not do,
This year's theme was.
let's not discuss it like we did earlier. Let's just give it to them.
Uh-huh.
I've got it ready.
Uh-huh.
Let's
And then,
ask them to do their
yes.
scale.
And then talk, well, think about experiential learning and life skills on that.
Yeah,
Effective
yeah. So
Okay.
everybody's gonna get this in just a second, because I added it to Qualtrics. They're gonna score it from 1 to 7.
Mhm.
We're gonna get the average, and then we're gonna talk about those that scored high.
Okay, and
Okay.
then,
Now, let me show you, just so you know. Let me show you the list. Now I have to get, it keeps kicking me off here. I tell you what, darn internet. I don't know about y'all, it's giving me a fit.
So I come here and I can't get it. So that's why I apologize.
Let's see if it'll give me
So
back.
then I go to connect. Like, you know how you have to get.
So what I would do is, let's tell them they're about to get this. So you go ahead, after you go in and do this.
well, I thought we're going to have a discussion first before we take it, because this is actually an answer to this one. We got even thinking about, experiential learning and life skills.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So what I'm planning to do is having a very short discussion first on defining again, and then maybe each one of them kind of what you're gonna
So let's do on this, which got that?
Just.
Oh, we're gonna do noon. Do noon, yeah, that sounds good. Is that okay with y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks. Thank you. Well, we got a lot of good data up here. Here's what I'm thinking. We do not have, we got a lot on experiential learning. We don't have anything on that.
life skills.
So just thinking about our time,
Here's our statement.
if you, is that our mission statement? Is
Let's
that-
see, let's
That's
see,
great,
let's see.
okay. Well, that's a really, can I take a picture of this? Or you want your notes back? So I take a
Right,
picture of it.
right,
Yeah, let me take a
right.
picture.
Just the one with the cloud around.
That's
it.
right,
The other one's
that's
chicken
right.
scratch where we
Oh,
were
no,
trying
no,
to.
it's wonderful. Thank you. That's exactly.
I can put that in the publications too with the.
With the bubble around
That's right,
it. This
that's
is the
right.
big idea. This is the big idea. That's what you do
That's
in
really
elementary
good.
school, right?
You know, so I think, Lynn, because just in the interest of time, let's,
Let's just drop the experiential. and
because
then
we got a
just do
lot
the
about
life skills.
experiential learning. let's talk about this right
life
here.
skill, and then,
Yeah.
while we're having a discussion.
I will
on the-
add to it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we are trying to, change a little bit because we are, actually, running out of time. But,
It's good.
we're not going to, discuss all of the 4 questions now because most of the questions are actually, we answered it already. So what we're going to do is that, we have to talk about, what are our teaching methods that you plan to use to promote effective teaching among your students, and think about improving life skills. Can we do that? Or,
Mhm.
maybe the questions you have to add the, in the questions, improving life skills or.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So, and that's what we
Good.
are just going to talk about. What are the methodology? No, actually that one is different. So because we are, we are not trying to answer all of the questions anymore. So we are just merging them together. So instead of
Yeah, we've done a lot of it already.
instead of just asking what teaching methods do you plan to use to promote effective teaching among your students in the classroom, we're going to ask now, what teaching methods do you plan to use or do you use to promote effective teaching among your students in the classroom of lab to promote life skills to your students? We are trying to answer the leadership development in our 3-component model.
Yeah, and Lynn, not to interrupt you, but we had such a wonderful conversation. We had some questions about experiential learning, but we've already had that come up so much. We had some questions about effective teaching, and that's come up so well.
With the classrooms.
Yeah, what we haven't really hit on specifically has been about life skills. You know, that whole idea of building those career-ready skills
Career
or life
readiness,
skills. or
and how do
soft
we
skills, right?
develop their leadership when.
Yeah, so that FFA part of the circle, the leadership development, that's been something that I think is missing as we think about lunchtime. So I thought we could use our time with that, so that's where we are right now with that.
Okay, so what we're planning to do now is maybe I can give you maybe 2 minutes to kind of digest the questions and think about how are we going to do it? What are the methods that you use or you are planning to use to promote effective teaching that promoting life skills and leadership development among your students?
Okay, and I'm about to publish it. Are y'all on there? Okay, give me 1 second. Hang on.
Is that?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, not yet. I thought, Dr. Furman, we are going to have a discussion because you're going to add more.
Yeah, you go ahead, Lynn. You go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so maybe 1 more minute and then we
talk
just,
about it.
Yeah.
we talk about it just for a little bit because we already have some answers in here based on the answers that you provided
Yeah,
from
we've got some
the
of them
first
now.
survey, but because we are changing the questions, we want to add more.
We're working on the fly over here. I'm working behind the scenes.
Okay, so maybe
Okay.
we can start now. I mean,
Yeah,
Again.
if you would, and then while I'm working on this, as you're facilitating the discussion, would you write down as
yes,
folks are saying, okay, thanks.
if I can touch it.
You got a better handwriting than me, I'm sure. Thanks,
Okay,
Lynn.
so what do you think is our teaching methods that you are using right now or planning to use to promote effective teaching to develop the leadership skills and life skills of your students?
Okay.
Allowing them to explore, but also utilizing modeling how things should be done. When I say that, I mean if we're looking at the leadership aspect, a lot of times, being able to show them what the expectation is, I think that's super important.
it's a lot of modeling, like I try to teach them eye contact when we're talking to each other. And when they're talking in the groups, to look each other in the eye, because that's kind of really hard to do. And even as a kid, you know, they have a really hard time looking at somebody when they talk to them. So we do a lot of modeling and just interaction with just talking to each other, skills like that, or even greeting each other with a handshake.
Okay, so having interactions.
I would say like cooperative learning is a big one, just like, I know you mentioned group work a bit, but even like maybe assigning roles within their cooperative groups, you know, like giving each one a chance to be the leader, like, you know, who was y'all's like project organizer last time? Okay, we're gonna let Rachel do it this time, and, you know, have your reader and your note taker or whatever it is, and it's different. It's gonna be different based on the project, but yeah, like definitely a form of cooperative learning where you have roles associated with it.
Yeah, kind of similar to that. I mean, it's kind of like what I tell mine. It's like you're working, this is your job, just like your parents go to work. You don't always get to choose who you're in a group with. You're going to work with the people in your group. Everyone's got a role and a responsibility. Someone's going to lead the day. Someone's going to do this part today. Someone has this job today. So you have to work together cooperatively to do those different jobs, those different roles. So it's one of those, it's very important that we understand that we have to share the leadership part, as far as like, everybody wants to always be like the project manager, the ones over the, you know, kind of overseeing kind of that kind of thing all the time, but you can't always be that. Somebody's got to be the cleanup person every now and then. Somebody's got to do this, get the supplies, get materials out and stuff. So just actually allowing them to be part of and to discuss and to make sure that they're not arguing about it all the time, but actively choosing the roles
Is
and
it designating responsibilities, or are they gonna be are you be the one to designate the responsibilities, or your student will be the one to?
well, and that's what I was trying to say, get them to the point where they're deciding who's going to do the roles and to make sure that they're capable of swapping roles and alternating and not always fussing about it, because it's, and that's what I tell them, if you're gonna fuss about it all the time, I'll assign roles and I'll make a schedule and we'll rotate through. But I mean, like the older kids, fourth and fifth, I said, you're old enough, you're responsible enough, you should be able to do it. I shouldn't have to do this, but sometimes that's what I tell them. I said, you're worse than my kindergartners. I'm having to give you roles and make you come in here and do it. So, I mean, it just depends. I mean, sometimes it's one way or the other. I mean, it just depends on the group of kids. Some classes struggle a little more than others.
A lot of those things just come through continual, just telling them over and over and over again. Anytime we do a project, or if they're, okay, boys and girls, it's so-and-so's turn to talk. How do we all respond to the speaker? You know, we need to have our eyes on them, our hands are quietly in our lap, you know, or whatever. We're not busy doing something, we're giving them our full attention, so that whenever it's your turn, then they're, you know, doing the same thing that others are listening. So just constantly reminding them of what their role is in those leadership in public speaking. I try to do a lot of public speaking, because I find that kids they like to talk, but when their eyes are on them, I mean, there's some that are really excited about it, but there's a lot that just don't have that self-confidence. And in elementary school, especially the older kids, like that is so important, because if they don't get it now, then they go through middle school and high school in a bubble, and I think that's a lot.
So how do you promote public speaking? I mean, do you
I do a lesson.
practice?
There's a TED Talks, and it's hilarious. Like, let me see, what is it called?
And starting them early in kindergarten first helps. I mean, getting them started speaking, talking, sharing to the class, whatever you're working on
But there's
early
one,
on makes a big difference.
and I
you can
type
start-
it out.
So it's
called
speaking in front
Ducks
of
Go
the class?
Yes.
It says ducks go quack, chickens say cluck. Like, it has this whole thing, but you have to get it in front of the room, and you have to give it like you're giving a speech. Like, you have to be serious.
So you're giving them
You
presentation?
know, and they love to do that.
Yeah.
And I just had it, I'm like, okay, now you have to give this TED Talk and try to be as serious as you can. Like,
Presentation
ducks go
activities.
quack.
Yeah.
Cows say moo. You know, where you're spacing your words out, you're talking slow, you know, just to give them practice, and because it's fun and relevant to farming. that they love
And
it.
then bringing in like the middle school FFA and the
I
high
do
school
that a lot,
FFA and the
too.
4-H from the middle and high school, and getting them to come, and like our middle school FFA in our, well, no, it's not our middle schools, our junior high, we have middle school, junior high, high school. They come every year and they do, it's during FFA week, they do a partnership with us and they do a whole career leadership. They bring their officers and all, and they do that whole activity with our 4th and 5th grade. And that's a big thing that the kids look forward to. And all the other kids, well, I saw that, but they people out.
Mine have
So,
even
I mean,
recorded themselves doing
yeah.
parliamentary procedure so
Good.
that they can see like what that looks like. And like, if you're thinking about being a lawyer or, you know, even being in a business period, there are certain rules and procedures of how to do things, even in a meeting. Like, so when you're in a classroom, you have to practice those things now. When the speaker is speaking, you are not.
And then I just want to show to everyone if I miss anything or if I, well, you know, wrote it, well, you know,
I think in
differently.
order to teach, you have to establish your rules and procedures in the classroom from the beginning.
establish rules.
Yeah.
I'm getting that, Lynn. That's good. Okay. Communicating those expectations.
That's inconsistent.
Mhm. That's great. Okay.
Okay, so establish rules and regulations, modeling how things to be done.
I'm gonna take it very, very
Show-
kindergarten visuals.
How I'm going to say that, what again?
So teaching that like just using visuals, if you have or, you know, anything like that, the kids love visuals, whether it's a video, a picture, you know, diagrams, graphing.
We actually talk about that for them when we're doing like our presentations. I'm like, okay, your group has to create a visual aid. And that's one thing where I kind of give them like the reins. It's like, it's just something that's going to help us understand what you're telling us about. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
you know, they might draw a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because we're talking about peanuts, or they might draw like a graph of peanut. Like, it's up to them, but like,
Yeah.
it's something that helps us keep our attention, you know. So
But also it gives you that differentiation because you're giving them the freedom
Yep.
to, you know, produce something you're interested in.
So creating visual aids or teaching materials, or learning materials is what are we going to use to call that? Creating materials.
Yeah, I can just put that in line, you know, creating a
Creating
visual aid
aids.
helps to communicate a message, helps
Yeah.
those students to communicate, you know? I mean,
Well,
that-
and I think that's part of elementary
Elementary
education
and
period.
teaching,
Because
I mean,
you have anchor
that's-
charts that you're constantly, and as the years have come on, like, that has become like, you know, an art in itself, or these anchor charts. We use
Yeah.
something called thinking maps at our
Yeah.
school,
Yeah,
which is really
Yeah.
like, you know, a Venn diagram and, you know, tree maps and stuff like that. But using those things to help organize their thinking as well, incorporating those helps.
it's great.
something to cover in your class, Dr. teaches, they better know what an anchor chart is and how to make pretty ones, or all the ladies in your
So
hall.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
they would,
I bet you
they
come
would
in
judge
with
you.
your-
So I'm saying, as the years have progressed, like,
Anchor
it's
chart.
become an art in itself.
Yes. And we will judge you about
Yes,
this.
you will.
One other thing that was mentioned, I know that we're moving towards integrating the STEAM model into ag. One of the things that I do is the kids have to do like a PBL project. And so the ag piece that I normally do, I'll give them a real world situation. Like for instance, a couple years back, there was a natural disaster that tore up the zoo over in the country of Georgia. I'll give them the problem and give them the tasks that they have to do. So they see the problem, they see the video, and in their groups, being that it's a special class, many times kids think that they can sit where they want to sit. Sometimes I'll allow them to sit with their friends, but other times I'm just like Justin, I'll assign them a place to go. And so they would have to create a way of how they're going to capture these animals. They have to build a model, and then they have to explain it to the rest of the class. So that whole public speaking piece and being able to use, so this particular task, they had to create simple machines on how were they going to capture the animals and get them into a safe enclosure. So just hearing how they were connecting their thoughts was like super cool, and it allowed them to work as a team for that leadership. And believe it or not, the kids in the group, they took on their own roles. And so I think that that's all important when we talk about leadership, because you see it on a very basic level and the kids are developing it as they're working on a real world task.
And I will say, I say this anytime I talk about elementary agriculture, because I think that that's what makes it so wonderful is it's for every student on every skill level. Doesn't matter if you know how to read or write, or if you're good at math or you're not. When it comes to elementary agriculture, it's for everybody, because everybody's gonna have their own strengths and weaknesses. And because, like in my classroom, I don't give grades, everybody gets a 100 participation. I think that reduces the stress level of a kid being timid about trying something new, because they don't have to worry about being graded on it. Like, I just encourage them, just do it, try the math. And if you don't, then this student can help you through that. So, it's for any and everybody, and it just,
It's not intimidating.
it's not intimidating.
So
That's right.
acceptance also, or
It-
inclusivity.
Well, that's what it allows children to be leaders within themselves. Like, if I'm really good at math and you're not, then I can say, this is what you do, you know, to find the sum or to find the average. You have to add all of these up together, and then you get this number, and then you divide it, you know, it allows, rather than me being the teacher, the kids to be teachers. as well.
Student-centered learning. Uh-huh.
Instead of teachers.
Yeah.
That's right, that's right.
Flip the classroom, is that how they do the teaching?
Well, maybe we spend another minute or two on this, and then we'll send them the
The,
QR
so-
code to take a
uh-huh.
picture of.
There's one there that I missed. It's that I don't know if I get it right. Accepting because you mentioned something where accepting strengths and weaknesses with your students. So how I'm going to just write acceptance or familiarizing or exposure when I don't know accepting students.
Well, yeah, it has to be inclusive, because we also teach students who have Down syndrome or who are autistic. Like, we get all of the special needs students who are not in a regular classroom. They come to us as well. And so they definitely
And
have to be
acceptance.
inclusive, all students.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And that's something that I think is very important to communicate in the college courses. Teaching these is that special education component, because they may not realize that they're gonna have those children as well. And so whatever. you're
Sped ready.
teaching,
Am I going
sped
to
ready.
That's right.
And I mean, that's been something that I've had to, an obstacle that I've had to learn to overcome. And there are ways around, I mean, there's great things out there. They love the class, but anyway, that's a different topic. But that is something that
Because
is important to know.
lots of our classes, the sped students don't go to their classes, and so when they finally come in, it's in our classes that they mingle now with their other friends.
Yeah.
And the other kids learn, you know, if Johnny is having a bad day, they might, you know, talk to him, the kids are like pulling up to him and, you know, just calm him down, or if he takes off running, they might say, hey, come sit with us, you know, so the kids.
Or you may have a kid who does not do well in crowds, and they need an independent activity that's relevant to what we're learning. So they're still doing the same thing. They're still included and not doing something totally different than what we're doing. Yes, you still have
Yeah.
to be able to reach those students.
Or you like some of the autistics, like, I mean, I've got one, I mean, and she literally, it doesn't matter what. She walks in the door, she's going to that fish aquarium, and she's going to stand there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Every day. If you try to move her to, it's a meltdown every time. So I mean, it's just, you have to learn those things. I mean,
And
let
learn
her
sign
have her
language.
time. When she's done,
You
she'll
need to
sit down in
learn
her chair and
You
she'll.
might need to learn
join.
sign language.
But if you
don't
try to
know.
move, like, and getting the other kid, I mean, other kids have learned and realized, but I mean, and there'll be kids like that. I mean, but for the longest, it was so-and-so gets to stand there, why don't we? Well, that certain kids have certain requirements and certain, I mean, you go through all that. But that's
So,
something that being
understanding
sped ready,
different
understanding
ways.
that, yes, kids have issues and they're gonna come with, and some of them even, I mean, I don't now, but I have had kids who came into my class that had a pair that came with them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that may be something that comes along as new teachers come in for that segment. It just depends on whatever that kid's IEP says. If they're in because of all the inclusion, if they're written in, they're included separated as much as possible. And that's what it is. If they have somebody with them, they may. I mean, sometimes our kindergarten, the first part of the year, the kindergarten teachers, the parents come with the kids for so many weeks because they're so new to the rotations
One
and
goes
all
to
of
the
that.
bathroom, all 20 of them.
Yeah.
have to do
Yeah,
that.
you don't let them go to the bathroom. You just don't know, because you let one, it's just a trickling effect.
So you're only here for 45 minutes, right?
Wait till
And I
you get
always
back.
say, hey, do you stop ag and all go to the front?
I've
You go
done
to the
that too.
bathroom?
Take a
That's gonna
bathroom
waste
break
your
and
ag time.
then we don't get what we wanted. I said, y'all wanted to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Next time they didn't ask.
Don't ask anymore. I know, right? Everyone. Do you allow cell phones? I mean, it's because you were talking about classroom management there. Okay, so yes.
Let me ask this one question, Linda, just before we go to the questionnaire. If you had to define a life skill for the audience that you're teaching, you talk about career ready skill or life skill, what would you say?
Public speaking.
That's an example of a life skill, okay?
I'd say just something that will help you be a productive member of society.
Okay,
I'm
all
gonna
right.
say just adaptability, you
okay.
know, being able to,
Yeah, be flexible.
And I'm gonna say
Communication,
flexible,
flexibility.
interacting with others, communicating with
Yeah,
others.
okay.
Communication's a big issue.
Okay.
I mean, a big deal.
Yeah,
Especially, like I said, when those special needs students come
Sure.
in, understanding the difference, because sometimes, like I said, that's the only time they're really with some of those kids.
yeah, respect.
So
patience,
understanding
empathy.
those basics.
Mhm. Okay, yeah.
I mean, really, truly. I mean,
Push that in
you
college
teach-
too.
The golden
You
rule.
teach those,
Yeah,
and you may not.
The golden
I mean, you can
rule.
call them fruits and spirit, only those who are, you know, have a religious background will understand where they come from, but that's really, truly like anything in life. It's applicable.
Right.
Kindness, self-control, all of
Yeah.
those things are key.
How can I say that? Values integrations?
Well,
Just value.
no, it's not,
I
no,
also
it
think
is,
each school
it
have
is.
their own core values.
Yeah.
Well, you have character
Morals and
education.
values.
Character counts,
In a
yeah.
lot of schools.
Okay,
That's it.
let's do our questionnaire for this one. So Lynn, is that the one up there? This
Yes.
is the second question,
Question
round two, that's right. So it's up there. You
You
got a
have
list of
everything
some
in
things. I got stuff up there. Thanks so much, Lynn. We're gonna complete this one. Let us know when you're done. And we'll see how we're doing on time, have a little reflection.
Yes, and same thing, like what we did a while ago.
This is that 1 to 7 scale. Strongly disagree, strongly agree. No ranking.
We are just going to rate a statement using a 7-point record of how strongly agree or disagree with this statement as necessary to use to promote effective teaching among your students and to develop their leadership skills and life skills.
Review the expense report as soon as possible. I think you go over here to expense reports. I don't have anything going on with him. Yeah, you ever seen one of those before? Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna.
Not to ask a dumb thing.
Yeah.
This is a legitimate thing. This isn't like a fishing thing, or anything coming from her.
I got one from Waldeck and from Martin, and it's like they copied Lisa. So I
Oh,
think it's
okay.
real.
Sorry, I didn't mean,
No.
this looks like a made up, okay. Yeah, I've never had anything like that. It's done, then we'll be able to look at that. We'll be able to, would you be able to help us with the means again, man? with
Yeah.
this? Is that- I'll be right back.
Round 2, question 2.
Yeah, this is,
Done.
this is a conversation based on what we've had this morning. This is cool.
It's spinach for next year.
Thank you.
They're all spinach. Spinach to win it is the thing.
Okra's my favorite vegetable. So.
I mean, I do
was
love
very
those,
As long as
but
we
it's
could
hard
pick it
to.
small,
Yeah.
it wasn't slimy, and we could ranch dip it, and the kids would eat it raw.
I like good old boiled,
I fried it
super
in
slimy
class.
okra, that's my favorite.
We served it in lunch. I dehydrated it.
Yeah, like
I
that.
did
dehydrated it
it.
inside,
The
or-
kids loved it.
Never done that.
And
Okay.
what is she can put on there?
Dehydrated. Someone cross on, they want for
Oh, it was very, very good. I didn't do it in little pods, I chopped it, or let the kids chop on it, and, we just stopped there, put it over the dehydrated, I drizzled some olive
There's
oil on there.
There's this wing place in Tifton that will toss their fried okra in a wing sauce, sauced okra.
Get out, that sounds good.
I can lose like, 1,000 calories a minute eating that,
Wow.
that sauced okra.
I dehydrated squash for the kids. That was very good. Wow. Sliced it thin and then salt, peppered it and dehydrated it, and it was like a potato chip. I was just telling him I went to. I did try zucchini, but I'm
Which I pickle squash too, just like. you
Pickle
do.
squash are good.
And they're good.
We make it with other
When my
Especially.
when my grandma died, I like looted the pantry to get like her last batch of pickled okra. I was like, no, Granny. pickled okra."
We picked them up when we get.
Pickled okra, cream cheese. The ham, like deli ham, spread it with cream cheese, and then put your, like, cut the ends off and put it up, and like roll it up.
You
and
slice
like
them.
little pinwheels. Oh
So
my
good.
gosh, it's, like, it does not sound like it would go together, but it is so good.
I've had a tray of those where like the pickled thing in the middle was different. Like they had